Hello, everyone. So, here we are in the event. I welcome you all with a warm and hearty feeling to Divspace 21. Let me introduce you to our first speaker of the day, that is Rishabh Singh, who is an MLH Fellow and has won more than 30 plus hackathons. Let me welcome you, Rishabh Singh. Hello, Rishabh.
Yeah. Can you see me? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible and you are visible as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. So are we going to start now? Because I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Should I begin or do I have to wait for someone? I think I'm on air, so I should begin. Okay. Hey guys, hello, what's up? Happy Saturday. All right. So yeah, super interesting thing happened this last month actually. Uh, Actually, December 2020, when Rishikesh got in touch with me and asked me to do something for Divspace 2021. I was at the event in 2020. It was a lot of fun. Um, Essentially, we did speak about a lot of key issues, but वही चीज़ है ना sometimes you just forget and essentially you can't cover everything in just one small event, right? So a lot of important topics were left out. Problem with any event, not just Divspace 2020, and any event, any 1 day, 2 day event, is that we assume a lot of things. A lot of things we assume that these people would, you people essentially, would already know. And then based on that basic assumption, we sort of uh, decide the whole flow of the event. The problem with that is sometimes those assumptions are not correct. And what happens at the end is, well, you guys are mostly confused. And I know this because I've been there when I was in my freshman year of college. A lot of these people used to come on stage. And even though the intention with which they were doing their talks or their events was good, I still had absolutely no takeaways at the end of the day, simply because, well, the context wasn't right. They had assumed a lot of things which I did not know. And well, if assumptions are wrong, then it just sets a wrong tune to the whole event, right? So that was an issue. But we decided to, this time, at least I decided to take on a few concepts which are absolutely foundational, something which every fresher should sort of know or understand. तो यही फंडा यार सिंपल सा है आई एम गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट breaking tech myths and biases. So, and actually, it's not just in tech. It's a very human thing, right? Everyone has myths and biases. It's not just in tech, but we are going to strictly speak in the context of tech. Well, it can become general as well. So I'm just going to tell you guys uh, that it's going to be general. It's sort of a disclaimer. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I'm giving you a disclaimer. It's very simple. Things like this. Actually, the event, all the talks that I've done in the past, all of them have been super specific. Super specific, as in, for example, how to make an API in Node.js, or how to build an Android app, or how to build a Flutter app. Right? It's a very specific topic. So I know exactly what to say, exactly what to do, exactly what to show. But this time, I've decided to go for a very general topic, which is breaking tech myths and biases, right? Since the topic is very general, I'm not sure what exactly to target because all of you have had different experiences, different upbringing, different sort of issues in life, and different challenges altogether, right? So essentially, even if I talk about tech myths and biases, in reality, I'm just going to be talking about my experiences, right? And all of you might not relate with it. So that's a problem with going with this general topic, right? If you say how to build an API in Node.js, it's super simple. You know what to do, you know what to show, right? You can't go wrong over there. But when you go with a general sort of topic that I have decided to go ahead with for my session today, the problem is it still misses key components such as your experiences and your challenges. So everything that I'll say, it could still end up making absolutely no sense to you, right? That's a disclaimer. Everything that I'm going to talk about is going to be inspired by my own experiences, but I figured that since I've been through college, most of my experiences might have been same as you guys. Most of them, not all of them. So I could have the same sort of biases as you guys. I could have the same sort of myths. I could have experienced all of this same as you guys, right? But what about the remainder? So the things that are left, I actually have a plan to uh, cover those as well. So while I'm going through the session, think of each myth or bias that you have gone through, that you have experienced personally, and just write it down, right? At the end of the session, there is going to be like a small Q&A that I'm going to do with you guys. Um, and I can answer all of your questions over there, right? So first we'll try to cover the general myths and biases, and then we'll go one by one to your questions. And that's how I try to cover most of your experiences, right? So I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to keep it simple. It's going to be a 5-6 slider thing. I'm planning to finish this in 20-25 minutes max, because I want to contribute the next 10-15 minutes to focus on your experiences, right? So let's get into it. Yeah, is there anyone from the team who's here? I need to know if you guys can see my screen. Hold on, I'll just share my screen. Okay, hold up. Not sure if you can see it. Screen sharing is not allowed. Guys, can you please enable screen sharing for me? It says that screen sharing is not allowed. I'm not sure. Hold on. Try sharing now. Okay, let's see. Yeah, no, I can't. I can't share it. Nope. Hey Ankit, hi. I can see you again. Ankit, by the way, guys, has attended most of my sessions. So at this point, it's just sort of, I'm actually used to seeing him here in all of my sessions. And he gives me solid feedback after each one of them. So I'm curious to know what's going to happen today. Also, guys, I still can't share my screen, so just hold on. It's cold, yeah. It's actually cold here in Delhi. It's super cold. Not sure how it is in Nashik, because last year, same time of the month, I was in Nashik. It was pretty sweet at that point of time, actually. Hold up. Okay, so it seems to be a technical glitch, so I have to send my PPT to them, which I'm not sure. Hold on. How will it happen? Okay, just gonna download it. Hmm. There seems to be a technical glitch. Sent. Talk about Java. Awesome. We have some trolls in the comment section as well. Cool. This is nice. Why is it- Yeah, I actually don't need the slides. I can just look at the slides and just tell you guys what I think anyway, because it's mostly I'm just going to do the talking. So um, I I'll just ask these guys anyway. Okay, you know what? We'll just start. Maybe these guys can figure something out from the back end till then. Yeah, I'll just start anyway, yeah, because it's mostly me who's going to talk for like 15-20 minutes. And like I've said, like I've already told you guys, this is not the part which will add value. The only way this session is going to add value to any one of you is if you ask questions, right? So if you ask questions, I'm just going to look at your questions here. I have this thing opened up on the right side of the screen. I can see your questions. So I can just answer them as I go, or maybe towards at the end of the session, right? So that is the part which is going to add value because, hey, if you want to look at someone speaking for 15-20 minutes talking about myths and biases, you can get that video on the internet. You don't need this, right? But what you need is personalization. What you need is answers to your questions, which I can do for you here. So that is the part which will add value. Please write questions. Think of anything which has troubled you in your pre-college, during college, or post-college duration, and I'll try to answer most of them. Right. So I'll just get started with the session. So again, like I've told you, it's about breaking tech myths and biases. And the plan is simple. I'm just going to lay out the plan in front of you guys. It's very simple. It's a 5-stage plan. So we're going to understand myths and biases. What what is a myth? What is a bias? I'm sure most of you understand that already, but I'm just going to lay it out in front of you so that we have the context set for this session, right? Just because I want to ensure that all of us are on the same page, right? So that's one. Number two would be evolution of myths and biases, right? So myths and biases obviously have evolved to a stage where it's an issue that has to be spoken about in a session, right? But how did it become so big? So we'll talk about evolution of myths and biases because myths and biases do not remain the same for each individual at any point of time. It changes for each person at different point of time, right? So we'll see the evolution of myths and biases. I'll tell you how to discover them in your life because understanding the definition of myths and biases is not enough. You need to understand how to discover them in your own life. And fourth thing is once you discover them, how do you go around them, right? So there has to be a strategy that you put into play, and using that you can go around them. At the end of the whole session, we have a quick conclusion and question and answer session, right? So these are the 5 stages. Just going to repeat it again for you guys. Understanding myths and biases, evolution of myths and biases, how to discover them, how to go around them, and then conclusion and quick question and answer, right? So um, yeah, I think these guys have my presentation on the screen now. Yeah, guys, can you go to the next screen? Yeah, I've already spoken about this, breaking tech myths and biases. Yeah, next one, please. Okay. They have to do a lot of work actually. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk about myself a little bit because I'm self-obsessed. Hold on. Yeah, just load up the whole screen actually. Next. Next. Yeah, next. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So, hey guys, my name is Rishabh. I like to build impactful products. And by that, I mean I like to code. And then using that code, I like to build impactful products that people can use. Essentially, I like making a difference with the products that I build. I like to drink freshly brewed coffee, and I'm mildly annoying to work with in a team. So if you're in a team with me for a hackathon or any project, I'll be mildly annoying, but at the end of the day, the net result is positive. So I'm sure we can all work together. I can be bribed with pizza and beer. That's like my favorite thing in the world. If you need something which has to be done, you just have to Swiggy or Zomato me a pizza and a beer along with it. Actually, you can't Swiggy or Zomato the beer, so just send me the money for it and I'll get it done. And in my free time, I also practice music production and DJing because what if software does not work out, right? It's always nice to have a backup. So that's a little bit about me. And now I'll just get into the whole session. Guys, next screen, please. Okay, I've already laid down the plan for you guys. I'm just going to do it again. Understanding, evolution, discovering them, how to go around them, and at last we'll have a conclusion and quick question and answer. Okay, on to understanding myths and biases. Okay, so the first point would be, okay, simple. Myth is something that is believed by so many people that you end up believing it too, right? So there's no logical basis of a myth in your head. It's just that since you have heard and seen so many people believing it, by convention and by human nature, you tend to believe it too. That's what a myth is. Now I'll give you a crazy part about a myth is that irrespective of whether it's true or not, you end up believing it anyway. So the only criteria that you're taking into consideration before believing a myth is that so many people do it. It's the magnitude of people that believe a certain something which tends to make you believe it too, right? So understand that it might not be factually correct or incorrect. In fact, you don't even try to understand if it's actually correct or incorrect. The only criteria in your head is the magnitude of people who believe it, right? And that tends to make you believe it too, right? So that's a myth. What's a bias? Bias is your natural preference or inclination towards something that you've personally tried or done in the past, right? So if I've had a blueberry pastry in the past, the next time I go to a shop and I see a strawberry pastry, I'll if I naturally incline towards the blueberry pastry without even looking at the strawberry pastry, just because I've tried and had it in the past, well, then this is a sweet example of a bias. I did not even look at the other things just because I've had something in the past. I've tried it personally. I know it's good. Uh, I tend to believe that it's the best thing that is available for me out there. And I just, that's it. Yeah. That is a bias. Um, Interesting fact about bias. Next point, please, guys. Next point. Yeah. Yeah. It clouds your judgment and it blocks your natural cognition and decision making. If you would have entered that shop the first time and you would have seen a blueberry pastry, a strawberry pastry, your natural cognition would have forced you to give both of them an equal shot. Look at them, judge them by their appearance, um, go back and assess things that you like, figure out your likes and dislikes, and then get to a conclusion, and then do the decision making, right? If you would have entered that shop the first time, this is what you would have done. But since you've already had the blueberry pastry, the second time you entered the shop, your natural cognition or natural decision making flow did not take place, and you went through a bypass. You went through an alternate way, which was simpler to you, and that's how it's a bias, right? It seemed simple, it seemed like you have done it before, it seemed like it's an easy way out, and that's why you decided to go that way. So understand that human mind is super tricky, right? It tries to get things done in the shortest way possible, in the shortest path possible, right? Which is great in some conditions, but not so much in the others. So like in this condition, even if the strawberry pastry would have been like super sweet for you, like would have been a mind blowing dessert at the end of your meal, you'd still not go for it simply because you're biased towards blueberry pastry, right? So understand that biases having biases is not the problem, but there is sort of like a side effect of having biases, which is that it blocks your natural cognition or decision making process, which might not be the best thing always, right? So so this is myth, which is you believing something that a lot of people have said, um, and you do it irrespective of whether it's true or not, just because the criteria is the magnitude of people who believe it too, right? So that's myth. And then on the other side, we have bias, wherein since you have done something once and you liked it and it worked out for you, you just your mind now just blocks your natural cognition and always bypasses like a short route, which works out in some cases, but mostly does not. So the problem is that it does more harm than good, and that's why bias is a problem. If bias would have done more good and less harm, it would have been okay because the natural sort of it balances out, right? But in this case, it doesn't. So that's why myths and biases, both of them are equally sort of bad things. Hold on, sorry, should have put it on silent. Yeah. Next slide, please, guys. Okay. Evolution of biases. Could you just load all of them? I think there are five of them. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So obviously, your myths and biases. Now that you know what myths and biases are, it's it's important. It's important to explain that they do not remain the same throughout your life cycle, right? They change at each point, and it changes according to certain situations and circumstances as well. I have taken this particular timeline, by the way. I've taken this one from pre-college to post-college and lifetime because this is, I'm sure 99% of us who are in this live stream, who's watching this live stream, all of us are somewhere within this time range. And that's why I've decided to go for this. Okay. So let's talk about pre-college. Well, an example of a pre-college myth would be um, only the smartest people make it into the best colleges, right? That's a myth. Simply because you've read so on the internet, you've seen so in your society, and well, generally it has been a convention, right? But doesn't mean it's true for people. Yeah, sorry. Doesn't mean it's true for most people, right? It's just, yeah, it works out for the majority, but that does not mean that if you're in the minority, it will not work out for you, right? There's nothing which stops you, there's nothing which decides that for you, but just because it's a general convention, it becomes a myth, and you tend to believe it just because of magnitude of people believe it too. I believed it personally, so I know that this is a problem. Initial years of college had the same thing. I cannot be a great engineer simply because I'm in my freshman year. Who says so? Colleges, in fact, these regulatory bodies also have these sort of myths. So, for example, in my college, the freshman students were not allowed to create their own clubs because the myth was that since they're freshmen, they might not be experienced to run a club. I mean, I've seen 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids running multinational companies out there, founding Y Combinator backed startups, right? So don't tell me 17, 18 years old kid cannot run a college club, right? I know they can. I've seen it personally. You guys can go out and see it too, right? If they can run companies, if they can figure out their finances, if they can figure out their taxes, if they can manage to be independent on their own, uh, then I'm sure they can run a, a, a freshman or a sophomore college club as well, right? So obviously, all of these things are biases. It's a college bias. It's a regulatory body bias that since these are freshmen, they will not be able to run a club, right? But can you see myths for how shallow they are? There's literally no basis to it. There's just convention. Convention is the only basis. So if you break that convention, that's it. That's how you overcome a myth, right? Late years of college have some sort of um, myths and biases attached to it as well. For example, well, once you're in third, fourth year, you need to do an internship in order to be ready for a job. I've seen multiple people who have not done any internship, and still they have just been super good at the jobs that they've done, right? In fact, this myth is so strong that some colleges have made it mandatory for their students to go through an internship. I mean, it's always nice. It's always nice to go through an internship before you get through a job. Um, but it's not, it's just a myth, right? The myth is that it makes you prepared for the job. It might do the trick for most people, but just because you're in the minority, it doesn't mean it will not do the trick for you, right? My point is, all of these are myths, and there are ways of getting around them. And most of these things, it begins with your mindset, the way you think about things, right? Post college, well, now that you're a fresher, um, since you're a fresher, there's a certain salary slab above which you cannot be paid, right? Like you cannot be paid above that salary slab simply because you're a fresher. Well, I find it a bit uh, non-reasonable simply because if you call things experience bags, then what you should be evaluating is experience and not really if a person has recently graduated college or not, right? Like I said, 17, 18-year-old kids are running multiple startups in multiple countries, right? Uh, do they have experience? Well, essentially not. Nothing, but there's nothing that dictates that these people can't do this, right? Uh, so that's what I'm trying to say here. It's just lot of things, lot of bits and biases that you'll see at different point of time, but almost none of them make sense if you want to do your own thing. Sorry, I have to. Yeah. Um, and then again, there's a lifetime sort of myth and biases as well, something that you'll experience post college till the end of your life, right? So, well, I can't obviously give you an example for each one of them because there's just so many, right? It's super general, but I can tell you how to discover them so that you have a framework which you can use to just filter out myths and biases and then process them, right? I'll tell you a personal myth that I have been through recently, which is, well, I was trying to join this company as a CTO, but then someone told me, hey, you're super young, you're not ready to be a CTO. Well, it could be true, but it actually could not be true as well. I mean, what stops me from becoming a CTO at 22? Almost nothing, right? Yeah, it could be right, it could be wrong. My only point is, don't let people decide what's right and wrong for you, because what people say, if they say it at a magnitude, it becomes a myth, right? So you just have to be mindful of things when you hear it. That's all. Next slide, please. Okay. How to discover them? Yeah, just load all of them at once, and I'll just explain one by one. All right. Cool. So how do you discover a myth or a bias? Okay, let's start with myth first. Okay, how do you discover a myth? Let's say, um, I'm just trying to look for a good example. Let's say, bu- 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 yeah, actually, let's just take the college one, right? Um, Freshman students cannot create a college club, right? How do you know if this is a myth or if it's actually true? You use logical backtracking to reach the foundation of that myth, and at the foundation, if you find nothing that that supports that claim, then you can be absolutely sure that this is a myth. I'll give you an example, right? So in the case of freshman and college club, you have to look at freshman and college club. The claim is you can't do it if you're freshman. Why are they saying it? They're saying it because they think we have no experience. Um, is okay, we have no experience, but is experience something which is time bound? Is it something which is age bound? No, not really. Um, can I get experience if I want to at an early age? Yes, I can. Right. So if you go below this, below can I get experience if I want to, then the only thing that is left is, do you want to or not? Right. So the question after you logically backtracked it, it becomes, do you want it or not? Right. So if you really want to open a club, you go around this. And since you really want to, you go around this, you create a club anyway, you get around the obstacles, you just create a non-official group of people and you do your own thing. Soon enough, when it becomes big, you take it to the college and you show them that, hey, look, I'm in my freshman year, but I've successfully been able to create a club, right? You show them, and probably they'll allow it to become a club, right? At least this is what I did. My college did not allow me to open a club, but I did the logical backtracking that, hey, why are they saying it? Why are they saying that I'm not allowed to open a club? Why are freshmen not allowed to open a club? Because the college thinks that they lack experience. Do I lack experience? Yes. Can I get experience if I want to? Oh, absolutely yes. Do I really want to? Yes. And since the answer for all of these things were yes, since the answer for all of these things were yes, I decided to do it anyway. And that's how I understood that this was a myth. This was nothing more than a myth. And I worked my way around it, presented the opportunity to the college, and soon enough we had our own club, right? So you have to do the logical backtracking. If at the end of the logical backtracking you find absolutely nothing which supports the original claim, then you can be absolutely sure that this is a myth, right? The second way of identifying a myth is to identify peer pressure. If a lot of people are just asking you to believe in something, a lot of people that they're personally coming up to you and they're telling you that don't even think about this, this cannot be done, then this is like a valid point where you should start figuring out if this is a myth or not, right? So in my case, in the same case actually, when I did try to open the college club that I was talking about, there were seniors who used to come in and they used to say, this is all in vain. You should not do this. You should focus your time on something else because they'd not let you do it anyway. Well, understand that intention behind something is not to get approved. It's big. It's because you want to do something, right? You want to do something because you want to do something. There's absolutely, you don't need any more reason than that, right? Why do you want to learn programming? Because I want to learn programming. That's it. You don't need any other reason, right? So once you understand that, then you can easily identify peer pressure, right? Was I creating a club to so that I can be approved by my college? Not really. I was creating a club because I wanted to grow. So that's why when these people used to come in and then used to tell me, don't do this because they'll not approve you, I could easily understand that this was peer pressure, which was supporting the same myth that the college had put out in front of us, right? So this is how you understand. Uh, this is how you can either identify, discover, or confirm if something is a myth or not, right? Now let's talk about biases. So how do you understand if you are biased towards something or not? It's disclaimer, it's really, really tough. It's not easy. And all of these things that I'm telling you, these have worked for me personally, but that does not mean it'll work for you personally as well, right? So because there's no framework for a general thing. That's the funda. If there were, then everyone would do it, right? If there were, then everyone would be like sort of like a genius at this. And you wouldn't need a session like this. But that's the thing. Human beings are complex. Human beings do not know things. Human beings, even after knowing things, they want to add their own flavors to it, and it doesn't work, or maybe it does. You don't know. My point is, it's all very, very dynamic, right? You can't really just put an aim and just throw a dart at it and expect it to hit the center every time, right? So just if it's not making sense to you, it's absolutely okay. When I was creating this presentation, um, I was thinking to myself, hey, why did I even choose this topic? It's so general that it's so vague that it almost doesn't make sense. But that's the point. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to make you think. That's it, right? So even if after this session you think for 5 minutes every time you face a myth or a bias, that's it. Purpose solved. Mission accomplished, basically, right? The purpose is not to make you a master at dealing with myths and biases. It's just to get you thinking so that you can develop and discover your own process. Okay, Sam, देखिए एक बार. So with that, let's get into the myth part. So how to understand if you're biased about something or not. Benefit of the doubt. This is a quality. This is something which has to be inculcated in you by schools or colleges. But obviously, they don't do a very good job at this. So you have to do this for yourself. You have to develop the habit of giving the benefit of the doubt to things, and the fastest way of doing it is to just start questioning everything that you do, and sooner or later you'll create your own process of filtering things out, right? So for example, if you go to that shop again to try that blueberry pastry, your bias inclines you or pushes you towards buying it again. But well, you just have to stop for a second and you have to give the benefit of the doubt to the other pastries as well, right? It's as simple as just looking to your right. or just stopping for 1 second and thinking, hey, wait a second, I'm going to buy this again, but why? Right? Just this question will sort of make you turn your head towards the other options that you have available, and it'll make you evaluate that. Even if you end up buying the same blueberry, pastry, it doesn't matter, because the point is not to stop you from buying it again. The point is to allow you to think and consider other options before you buy it again, right? So understand that benefit of the doubt. It's a habit. It's something that you'll have to develop over time. It will not come in one day. But as soon as you start giving the benefit of the doubt to the other options that are available, you will minimize the chances of you being biased, right? Minimize. I'm not saying um, uh, dismiss or absolutely just eradicate it. Just minimize, because the process of removing it completely is also a gradual process. It does not happen in a day, right? Another thing is the default check-in. You'll have to think of things that are by default in your head. So for example, when people used to say backend, my default operation inside the head was Node.js. When people used to say database, my default operation used to be MongoDB, right? When people used to say deployment, my default used to be Heroku. The problem is, because of this, I've never considered Java or Golang as a real backend option. Because of this, I've not considered SQL or any other database as a viable option. Because of this bias, I've never given AWS, Google Cloud, or DigitalOcean, any of these cloud providers, even a chance. I've not even given them a benefit of the doubt, simply because of the default check-in inside my head. So you have to think about the default check-in. Hold on. Sorry guys, a lot of operation here. I hope this is not a problem. Okay, I'll just go ahead anyway. Yeah, so a lot of default check-ins inside your head, right? You have to ask them. You have to keep yourself in check. Hold on, yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, going back at it. Right. So all of these, because of these default check-ins, I never even thought about the other viable options, right? So you have to keep your default check-ins in mind. The next time you have a project and you're about to jump onto your default tech stack, ask yourself, are you doing it because it's faster, it's efficient, or are you doing it because it's more convenient to you? Because it might be more convenient to you, uh, simply because of the biases that you have. You tried it once, you absolutely loved it, you fell in love with the process, you know exactly what the next button is going to come, which you have to enter or press, you know exactly where you have to click. It has been, mapped inside your head so properly that you don't feel like giving up. You don't feel like trying another thing, right? And that's not your problem, by the way. That does not mean you're faulty. It's just a human nature. Humans are inertial by virtue. Human beings are, they have resistance to change. If you like something, and it's being changed, you resist to it. That's the only reason which explains that's the only thing which explains why you hate moving to a new place, why some people might not like making new friends, why some people might not like going to a new school, or trying a new tech stack, even if it's better, even if they know it's better, even if they know that it can help them, or it can probably fasten things or increase the process or accelerate the process. You will still not do it, just because of the inertia, just because of the resistance to change, right? And that's why biases are human-like qualities, and it's super, super tough to get in touch with them, right? So next time you land on a project, you're trying to start a new project, you're trying to do freelancing, just think: is your default check-in, you're going with your default check-in because it's faster, or is it because it's more convenient, right? You have to keep yourself in check. So this is how you discover your myths and biases. Now I'll tell you how to go around them. Next slide, guys. Right. Okay. This is some top level motivational stuff, but I'll just try to sort of bring it down and get it into the same context as the previous slide. I think there's, yeah, absolutely. Okay. So simple question that I used to ask myself all the time: am I the best Android developer out there? Am I the best Node.js developer out there? Am I the best cloud or DevOps person out there? The answer is no. And I knew it almost every time. If the answer is yes for you, you're in the wrong room, or probably you're just looking at the way you look at things is probably wrong. You'll have to change that, right? The answer has to be no, even if you're the best, by the way. Just because if it's no, then you'll never stop trying, right? Okay, I'll just get back to the point. The point was, am I the best Android developer, Node.js developer, cloud person out there? I'm not. But can I be? Can I be one? Absolutely. So you just have to hold yourself to the highest standard. Whenever you're working, whenever you're doing something, hustling, right? Or it could be anything, right? It could be a new project. It could be uh, a, a new routine that you're trying out. You just have to hold yourself to the highest standards. People who become the best don't become the best because they dream of becoming the best all day, um, every day, right? They don't do that. They just hold themselves to the highest standards, um, and in the process of that, they just become the best one day, right? But it's not as easy as it sounds. Holding yourself to the highest standards is super difficult. I'll give you an example. Do you code better when your friends are looking at your screen, or do you code better when no one's looking at your screen? The answer should be the same for both of them. You should be coding the same way, even if someone is looking or even if someone is not looking, right? The problem is I used to refine my code. I used to make it maintainable. I used to structure it properly. I used to add comments. I used to do all of those good practices only when other people used to look at me, only when other people were looking, only when I was working with other people in a project, right? But as soon as it was about my personal project, I didn't give a shit about comments anymore. I didn't care about the project structure. I didn't care about what library is calling what. It just it just was about getting things done. And I used to get things done, but probably not in the best way, right? So at that point of time, I was not holding myself to the highest standards. I should be holding myself to the highest standards even when no one is looking, right? That's how you know that you're holding yourself to the highest standards all the time, right? So if you do that, you'll automatically bypass and overcome all the myths and biases that you have in your way, right? Think about it. People say you cannot be a decent coder if you're in first year of college. But if you just hold yourself to the highest standards, and just keep on doing that again and again, uh, suddenly that myth doesn't matter anymore, right? Because by second year, third year, you're already a pretty decent sort of coder, and you've already broken the myth in the process. So you don't even have to look at myths and be like, hey, I have to break this. You don't have to be like that. You just have to hold yourself to the highest standard, and you'll find that all of these myths and biases, you're breaking them by default, right? So that's important. Keep that in mind. That is really, really important. I can't emphasize on that part enough. Okay. So that's one. Um, do things just to mess with convention. So people say you cannot code in SQL if you're working on let's say non-relational projects, right? Do it just to mess with them, just to show them that it can be done. People say do not use MongoDB for large projects because it makes things confusing. Well, if MongoDB makes things easier for you, then why not? Go for it. Mess with them. Just challenge the convention, right? Mess with these people, and it's fun for you. It's fun to mess with them, and it's also generally it's a very nice feeling when you break convention, right? Because convention is the worst thing ever, right? I mean, just think about it. Everything in your life, it just started with a stupid convention, which you didn't have the capability to break back then. But now with this new sort of approach, you can go ahead, mess with it, break it, just fold it inside a ball and throw it out of the window, right? It's your call. The whole thing, the whole ball is in your court. It's just up to you what you want to do with it, right? So this is how I used to deal with most of the myths. People used to say, hey, Rishabh, you can't use MongoDB in a big project. I used to use it anyway. People used to say, hey, you cannot freelance in second year of college. I freelanced anyway. Uh, People used to say, hey, you cannot get a job before graduating. So, I just tried getting a job in third year anyway. Yeah. People say you cannot be a CTO at 22 or 23. So now I'm just trying to mess with that convention, honestly. Uh, yeah, that's it actually. That's about me, but I'm sure if you guys look into your life, you'll find many such myths, and sometimes the best way to deal with them is just to mess with them. Okay. Third point is challenge it, embrace it, and be ready to fail. So when you're messing with convention, it's fun, till the time you don't fail. Imagine if someone said, Rishabh, don't use MongoDB in a big project because it's hard to deal with. And just to mess with them, I used MongoDB anyway. And it turns out that they were right. Turns out that I'm not able to handle it and it's just breaking the code everywhere, right? Uh, Embarrassing and, also a little heartbreaking as well. But not so much if I was prepared to fail, right? So if you go with the intention, if you mess with the convention with the intention of succeeding every time, then you're not ready for it. Don't do it. Only do it when you're ready to fail, right? So if you're uh, messing with people, right? If you're messing with with the convention, make sure that you have the mindset to fail. Make sure that you're prepared to be failed because you will. Because you will. I mean, if you're not failing already, you might just be lucky, but you will, 100%, right? Out of 10 times, at least once. And to make sure that you're not heartbroken and you don't, and you just feel like it's not worth it and you never do it again, make sure that you go in with the intention of, with the mindset of being ready to fail. Okay, that's super important. Ask questions, note things down, and check in on these things from time to time. So I remember in second year when someone told me don't use MongoDB for a production level application, I used MongoDB anyway, and I noted it down on a piece of paper that hey, this this person told me not to do it. I'm doing it anyway, and here's why I'm doing it. Point one, point two, point three. Okay. 2 years later, I was in fourth year, and I had to work on another MongoDB project. But this time, I just felt the need of using SQL. I don't know why. Maybe I had just become more mature in the past 2 years. But looking at the size and the way data was connected inside this project, I decided to go with SQL. But then this is where the default check-in came in. The default check-in came in to be MongoDB, but I recognized that default check-in and I switched it to SQL. But I was curious that hey, why did I change it to SQL? So just to understand why I did not pick MongoDB, I went to my notes and understood and tried to understand the reason why I chose MongoDB 2 years ago, right? And all the reasons that I had mentioned under that 2 years ago did not make any sense at all. Absolutely no sense. And I was like, shit, why did I even write this? This makes absolutely no sense, right? And that is how I was able to understand, okay, maybe I was biased at that point of time, right? So this is how you note things down, and even when you're in the future, you can just sort of look back and understand whether you were biased at a particular point of time or not, right? It helps you in the future. So that's another useful strategy that I use. Asking a lot of questions to myself all of the time, actually, not other people, just to myself. And I find, and when you write things down, it's easier to just think of something in your head. Yeah, okay, I'll use MongoDB because this, and then that, and then A, and then B, and then C, right? But if you actually try to write it down, you'll understand the holes or the voids that you left in your thinking process, right? Thinking process is flawed, and that's why to retain the most information out of your thinking process, you have to write it down. And once you start writing it down, that's when you start discovering the holes that were left in your memory, or the holes or the voids that you did not think about, right? And that's why writing things is super super important. Also because you can just go back to it at any point of time and refer it and understand your mindset or mind and or how you thought at that point of time, right? It helps generally. It's very hard to explain verbally why it is helpful unless you actually do it. I suggest take one instance, apply it over there, and you'd see what I'm talking about, right? So, for example, whenever you're thinking of an engineering process, that hey, I have to send a push notification to this phone. So in your mind, the flow would be like, okay, I'll hit this endpoint will hit this endpoint, this will go and fetch the value from database, and then it'll push to this phone, right? So in your mind, everything connects well. Just try to write it down on a piece of paper, and then you'll understand that oh shit, this is something that I had not thought of. This happens to me almost all of the time, simply because it's very easy to just visually understand something and versus understanding it while you write it down, right? When you write it down, it exposes the flaws or the loopholes in your process of thinking, and that's why writing things becomes exponentially important. It compounds over time. Okay, so yeah, so this is how you go around your myths and biases. Next slide. Actually, yeah, that's pretty much it. I wanted to keep it short simply because I explained at the start of the stream that this is a very, very general topic, right? All I can do here is just talk about my experiences, my myths and biases, and expect that most of you guys must have gone through the same thing, right? So if that has happened, then all good and well. But if not, this is the time to ask your questions. This is the time where the thing that you were hoping for that you would get out of this session, if you did not get it, you can just morph it into a question and ask me, and I'll be more than happy to answer you, right? So we'll actually just pause for maybe 5 minutes, and I'm going to be here. I'm just going to look at the questions on this right side panel. Go for absolutely anything. It could be a personal question, it could be a professional question, it could be hey, how did you do this, or how did you think that, or how do you think that, or hey, this is what I'm going through, can you help me out a little bit? Absolutely, go for it. Consider this your safe space, because I'm not older than any older than you guys actually. I'm 21 years old, and I've literally just graduated college. So you can actually think of me as a fourth year college student still, and it'll actually be legit to think of that simply because I've not received my degree till now. So unofficially, or actually officially, I'm still not a graduate, right? So think of this as a safe space and go for your questions. Okay. Ooh, all right. Okay, I can't scroll through. Guys who asked questions at the start of the session, could you please post your questions again? Because I don't have any option to scroll through the previous questions. So you'll have to post it again. Okay, I'll start now. Oh, awesome. Can we get to know about the myths that you have gone through? I actually told you guys a couple of things in the session itself, but I'll actually go again. Okay, I'll think of 4 or 5 myths that I've gone through. Well, number one was you cannot create a club because you're a freshman, right? So super sounded stupid to me. I did the logical uh, backtracking to figure out that this is nothing but a stupid myth. Um, another thing would be you cannot be a production level Android developer while you're in college. There's absolutely nothing that suggests so, but since people said it, I believed it. But sooner or later, I found out that it's actually not true, and then I started working on my Android skills. People said you cannot get a job before college. You can only get it in third and fourth year. You can only get internships in third and fourth year. So that's a myth as well. I've gone through that as well. And actually, a lot of senior engineers just looking at college students and thinking that since we are junior engineers, there are things that we can't do, or there are things that we can't solve, or maybe our mind has not evolved in that way where we can think of things in the same way as a senior engineer would, right? So yeah, a lot of these actually, a bunch of them, yeah, but I can't think of all of them at the moment. If you have a specific question, I'll be happy to answer that. Um, I'll cover more as I go on, by the way. Cool. Okay. Next question is by Akash. Is Python overrated? Yeah, I wouldn't know. Um, I simply because I code in JavaScript, but but yeah, sorry, I don't think I don't think I know the answer for that. Is Python overrated? Yeah, actually, what is not overrated? Absolutely everything is overrated. Sometimes things, sometimes myths are formed just because things are overrated, right? So yeah, not sure if that question is in line to what we're doing here, but yeah. Okay, moving on to the next one. Is learning your only source of motivation? Um, shit. Interesting question. Is learning your only source of motivation? No, actually not. Yeah, you'd be surprised. My only source of motivation? No, absolutely not. Well, it is one of them, but a huge one would be food, because I just love food, right? So I remember this is actually very stupid, but I'll just tell you anyway because this is what's coming to my head right now. So back in first year, the only definition of success for me was, it actually still is. It still is, yeah, it still is walking into any restaurant, bar, club, or pub and ordering, eating, and drinking anything that I want to without looking at the right side of the menu. That's it. So just that just kept me going on. I just did not want to look at the right side of the screen. Sorry, screen, not the screen. Yeah, right side of the menu or screen, whatever, because that's usually where the price is listed. I don't want to look at price. I don't want to look at the cost of things and then understand whether I want it or not. I just want it, and so I should have it. That was that was another sort of motivation. So no, learning is not the only motivation. There's a bunch of them. Food being uh, the best one actually. Moving on, Ankit, what is the most stereotypical phase of average fresher in tech industry that you came across, and how did you deal and rectify with the situation? Hmm. Interesting question. Average pressure in the industry. Yeah, actually, this one, the one that I talked about, which was um, since you're a fresher, there's a certain amount of salary slab that you fall in, right? And it mostly happens at corporate companies, wherein if you're a fresher, you're you go inside a slab. So there's a slab for freshers, and it has a lower limit and it has an upper limit. So it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how much experience you've had in the past. It doesn't matter what what genius sort of things you've done in the past. Uh, since you're a fresher, you'll obviously fall into the slab, and then your your worth would be defined by the slab and not really by your experiences and your skills. And yeah, and I think it's actually a bit fair as well. It's actually fair because it's very hard to evaluate if people are actually skilled or not, right? So I see why companies do it, but then again, I also see startups which are not doing it. I see startups hiring 21, 22, actually 17, 18 years old kids as well. And these people get paid equal to the senior engineers in that startup, or the data scientists in that startup, right? Or any other general force in that startup, right? So I know that this is a myth which companies have to go through simply because it's very hard to understand if a person is actually good or not. But then again, there's another source of uh, you know companies. These are called startups, and they absolutely defy this sort of myth. They defy this convention, and they do things. They evaluate people on the basis of the skills and the experience that they bring to the table. So yeah, um, that that would be my answer. Okay, Parth is asking. I'm 21 too, and I'm in my third year now. I can't really code. I'm thinking of going all the way into OOP with C++ and ADS with DSA. Would I be able to get a good job? Okay. Yeah, Parth, I think if you're actually driven towards computer science, if if you took computer science because you're deeply interested in it and not because your parents forced you to, or and not because you were peer pressured into it, then getting a good job would not be a problem for you. All you need is to be driven. If you're driven, then you can absolutely get a good job. The only problem is, um, well, well, yeah, a myth. Well, this could actually be skewed as a myth as well. I'll tell you why. Um, People think that if you don't get a job after college, you're useless or you didn't do enough in college, right? Well, in other countries, sometimes people take an year or two off after college to figure out their interests, to figure out things that they want to do in life, simply because they did not have enough time in college, simply because they were going through something else, etc., etc. Could be anything. My point is, sometimes people take an year or two off to figure out what they want to do in life, right? But if you do that in India, then it means you were a failure or you were useless or you didn't do enough in college, right? And that's a myth, right? So if you're actually driven, if you love computer science, then getting a good job would not be a problem for you. But you'd have to get over the myth of uh, that you're useless if you don't get a job while you're in college, right? For example, I was absolutely ready to fail. I was absolutely ready to not get a job after college. I had spoken to my parents already. I had actually had a conversation with myself that, hey, Rishabh, it's absolutely okay if you don't get a job. You know that you're driven, and that's all it needs, right? Fortunately, I got a job, but in case I would not have, I would not have given up simply because I had found out a way of getting over that myth, and I was prepared to fail, and I was ready to sit home for an year and two to figure out things that I want to do in life, right? So would you be able to get a good job? Absolutely 100% yes, if you are driven and if you're able to overcome the basic societal myths that we still have around fresh graduates and colleges in general. I hope that answers your question. Thanks, Parth. Next one, please. Share your thoughts on early age coding. India is really confused on that now. Sorry, hold on, यार. Actually, घर में दाल चावल बनता है ना जब just the cooker starts acting up, it makes me crazy because I sit in the hall now, so it's a problem. You give me a second. Yeah. हाँ ठीक है कोई नहीं. Yeah. Early age coding. Yeah, early age coding. I'm not sure what to add to it because hold on. Okay, shit. They're running out of time, so I'll not be able to answer all the questions. It seems like. But I'll just quickly. I'll try to answer 4 or 5 of them, and I'll just round this up quickly. Okay. Cool. Early age coding. I don't have any thoughts on it simply because I've not been through that phase. But I can actually comment on a few things. Um, Early age coding only makes sense if the kid is actually driven towards it, right? Imagine if my interest was actually coding, but there are two ways of getting into it. Number one, I discover it naturally. Number two, I'm forced into it, right? So even though my interest is actually coding, there are two ways of getting there. Number one is if I find it naturally, and number two is if someone forces me into it, right? So even if it's my interest, I am less likely to enjoy it if I am forced into it, right? You see the point? So there's no problem with early age coding. The only thing that you should keep in mind is that kids should find this interest organically and naturally and not really forced, right? Uh, that's it. That's all about it. Anything that you love, if it becomes forced, you'd stop enjoying it. And that's the concept behind this thing. If if early age coding is good for kids if they discover it organically and naturally. That's it. Next question. Yeah, we'll just do 3 4 more questions and I'll do it quickly. And then we'll end it. Okay, where and how can we find a good internship? The key to finding a good job and a good internship is to just forget about trying to get a good internship or a job, right? You literally have to remove that agenda from your head. Okay, you don't have to think about, well, if you make it internship oriented or job oriented, then all of your efforts will be skewed in that direction, right? So the only thing that you'd be trying to do, you'd be just desperately trying to get a job and not really upskilling in that process, right? So the key here, the trick here is to forget about internships and jobs and just put your head down and start working really really hard. That's it, right? Eventually we'll get there. All right, I'll share an article with you guys. I'm not sure. Hold on. Actually, just give me a second. It's called, yeah, I'll just search for it. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys know this. You guys know Unacademy, right? So Unacademy was co-founded by Gaurav Munjal, right? Gaurav Munjal has written this amazing sort of article. It's called Small Goals. Um, Small Game, I think. Small Game, yeah. Small Game Syndrome. Yeah, can I share a link here? I'm not sure if I can share a link here. Shit, yeah, I really want to share this link. See, guys, if you can. Okay, just find this on. Just Google this. Go to Google and just search this small game syndrome, and just add Gaurav Munjal. Okay, so there's an article by Gaurav Munjal. It's a 4 to 5 minute read. In that, Gaurav Munjal talks about how you should have an iconic goal and you should not play the small game. So for example, my iconic goal, for example, is, let's say, becoming, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's the link in the comments. My small goal, sorry, iconic goal is becoming the best developer in the world, for example, right? Then things like, यार ये कोड नहीं चल रहा है, यार ये टेक्नोलॉजी मेरे को नहीं आती है, यार मैं पाइथन सीखूं या जावा सीखूं या जावास्क्रिप्ट सीखूं, all of these things become irrelevant, right? They become irrelevant because this is a small game. This is your mind telling you to focus on the small game, while the bigger question in picture is how do you become the best developer, right? So to answer your question, stop looking for an internship or job specifically. Focus on the long game. Long game is that you want to be a relevant and skilled engineer in your industry, right? So just look at that iconic goal, and 7 to 8 out things that you do in a day, 7 to 8 things out of 10 things that you do in a day should be focused towards that goal. Everything else will, you'll just by default pass it on. You see the point? If you don't see the point, I highly suggest you to just read that article. It'll explain everything that you need to know, right? So I think Stuti, right now you're playing a small goal. Sorry, small game. You're playing a small game right now, which is, यार internship कैसे ढूंढूं अच्छी, job कैसे ढूंढूं अच्छी, right? But all you have to do is figure out your iconic goal, put it on a, write it on a piece of paper, hang it on a wall, look at it every day, because it will set context for you for the rest of the day. And then 7 or 8 things that you do out of 10 things should be towards that goal. If 7 to 8 things that you do are towards that goal, then things like finding a good internship and finding a good job will not be a problem for you anymore. You'll get all of that by default, right? So highly suggest you to read that article. Okay, guys. Last question. This is the last question that I'm going to answer. After that, you guys can get in touch with me personally. I'll drop in my personal, the links over there, and you guys can get in touch with me. A master's degree or a job dilemma in the tech industry. Does it matter or just a myth of corporate? Also, does it affect on the longer run for promotion increment in India? Oh, love this question, yeah. I love this question. Okay. This one will take 2 minutes, but I'll do it properly simply because it's super important. So, well, masters, it was created so that you could excel specifically in your area of study, right? So if your area of study is computer science, then artificial intelligence is a part of it. So you do your bachelor's in computer science, but you do your master's in artificial intelligence. You're basically specializing in one subpart of your area of study, right? It was created so that you could be more confident, you could be more knowledgeable about the things, about a specific thing that you really want to do, right? Because computer science in itself is a huge thing, and not just computer science. This applies to any field, electrical, mechanical, psychology, right? So masters, the concept was created so that people feel, hold on, so that, hold on, Mama. So the masters, the concept was created so that people become more skilled, more confident in what they want to do, right? But sooner or later, it evolved, it morphed into a concept of higher package, especially in India. So people started using masters as a way of getting a higher package. So if they graduated and they got a 8 lakhs per annum job, then they would definitely do masters just to get up 11 or 12 lakhs per annum job, right? Suddenly it wasn't about skills anymore. Suddenly it was just about higher pay or better opportunities or sitting in with the big guys or playing in the big leagues. You get the point? And this is how a thing which had a good intention at its heart became a myth in India. That if you don't do masters, you're not good enough. If a person has not done masters, then he should not get above a certain level, right? And no one wants to be left out, right? It's FOMO, fear of missing out. Everyone wants to be in the big leagues. Everyone wants to earn more. Everyone wants to have a great and decent sort of life, right? And that's why everyone does masters. So soon it became more of a FOMO thing instead of a learning and being skilled sort of thing, right? In my case, well, to answer your question, it doesn't matter. Now it does not matter. It would have mattered 5 years ago, 6 years ago, actually a decade ago as well. But now the thing is, companies have started slowly started realizing that skills are what matters and not really your degrees and your masters and whatever that you're doing, right? It's okay if you do it for the knowledge of it, then it's absolutely amazing. But if you're doing it for higher package, you can get a higher package now without even doing masters. Okay, it's super simple. If you do the logical backtracking of why you should get a master's degree, you'd understand if you really have to or not, right? So if your logical backtracking results in, yeah, I love knowledge, I love to know about things, I want to do this because I want to understand how things work on a deeper level. If you're crazy about that sort of knowledge, you should do masters. But if your logical backtracking leads to jada paisa, jada opportunities, then it's probably not worth it, right? So this is how you do logical backtracking of myths. Um, एंड जस्ट टू रीट्रेट दैट कॉन्सेप्ट अगेन, यार मुझे मास्टर्स करनी है, क्यों करनी है? बिकॉज अभी मैं जूनियर लेवल पे हूँ, मैं सीनियर लेवल पे आ जाऊंगा, सीनियर लेवल पे आने से क्या मिलेगा? ज्यादा पैसा से क्या? ज्यादा अपॉर्चुनिटीज, और ज्यादा अपॉर्चुनिटीज से क्या? बेटर लाइफ स्टाइल. See, at the end of the day, it 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 came for me. It came to be about jada paisa, jada opportunities, and etc. etc. All materialistic things, right? Compare it with the purpose of a master's. Does the purpose match your intention? It doesn't. It's definitely a myth for me, at least, right? For you, if the answer comes out to be, if the logical backtracking answer comes out to be, I love knowledge, I'm doing this for the knowledge, I'm crazy about it, I want to see how things work on the background, then you should definitely go for masters, right? So this is how you do this. In my case personally, I was about to go for masters, but simply because I was literally bored of this convention. So I was doing masters because I was tired of the concept of myth so much that I was going for a myth myself. I'm not sure if it makes sense, but I was so tired of the concept of a myth that in order to defeat it, I was giving up to a myth, right? But then at the right time, I did the logical backtracking and I found out that, hey, if I'm doing this for better opportunities, I can teach myself more in 2 years than any other external institution can. And that is my belief. I'm not saying, I could be overconfident, by the way. I could be absolutely wrong. All of these things are absolutely human, right? But this is how it works for me. If your answer comes out to be different, then please act accordingly, right? For me, since I taught myself more in 4 years than my bachelor's degree could do, I was absolutely certain that I will teach myself more in the next 2 years than any other external institution can, right? But that's my case. It could be different for you, and that's why you have to take your call accordingly. I hope that answers your question, Ankit. And with that, I'd like to close this session. Shit, so much for 20 to 25-minute session. Almost went on for more than an hour now. So thank you so much, everyone, um, for joining me here. I told you, well, I had given you, if you were bored, if you didn't like it, that's absolutely okay, because the purpose was not to make you, not to force you to agree with me. The purpose was simple. It's just to, uh, you know, uh, put this idea in your head, sort of throw it around you so that you think about it, experiment with it, and generally just improve. Sorry, yeah, sorry guys, yeah, generally just improve in life, right? So yeah, that's it. That was the intention. I hope it made sense to you. The point was not to make you agree with me. It was just to put that concept in your head. So if you did not agree with me, that's really really nice. I would love for you to come in and ask questions, and we can have a chat around it, right? Thank you so much, Team Divspace, for getting me here again. Um, and if you guys have any question, I'd love to answer them. Otherwise, I just let the other speaker come in and do his magic. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Rishabh, and thank you for your time. It was an eye-opening session, of course. I would have to agree because there are many tech myths around and which are needed to be broken. So thank you for your time and session.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm no expert in this. I struggle with this myself. I'm still struggling. So don't take my word for it. Use your common sense. And have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Good day. So guys, this was Rishabh, and now I welcome you all to our new speaker, that is Faraz Sayed, who is a Red Hat technical associate, and he will be joining you in a moment. I think he has joined, so let's not waste our time. And if you are into cloud computing, if you're thinking about cloud computing, this session is going to be a rocking one. So, hi Faraz.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible and you're visible.
Okay. Yeah. So, hello guys. Hope you all are doing well. This is Faraz Sayed. Currently, I'm working as a technical support engineer with Red Hat. Uh, I'm working on mainly containers. So, I'm a container guy and giving the session on AWS. So, this session majorly focused on AWS and cloud computing. Just a moment. Okay. So, in this session, I will be covering the major aspects of AWS, like what AWS is, how it works, and what cloud computing is, and why it is getting so much hype, and how one can start with cloud computing. So, let's get started. So, Kriti, can you please start with first slide? Hello, hello. Okay, okay. So for in this session, I will be majorly focused on like by the end of this session, you guys will be you will be having a very good idea of what cloud computing is and how exactly it works. So, just wait for the first slide to come in so I can start my session. Okay, so guys, yeah, so let's till the first slide play. I'm gonna yeah, hello, Kriti, can I share my screen? Okay. So, when we like say about this cloud computing, like we imagine like there is something in cloud, or this is something related to weather or something. But this cloud computing is totally dependent upon like this cloud consists of Linux and Windows server. Yeah, it started. So yeah, as you can see, there are multiple server here hosted inside the cloud. So this is the only thing which is called as cloud computing. So, cloud is nothing but it consists of Windows and mostly Linux servers, which is bunched together somewhere in a data center, and it is provided to you by virtually. So what you can do is you can create your infrastructure, you can get your you can get an app, you can run your application on cloud. So yeah, so I'm going to tell you about like there are two different types of cloud now. One is private and one is public cloud. So, yeah, next slide please. Okay, so here, public cloud and private cloud. Just as the name suggests, public cloud is a cloud which is available for everyone. For example, AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, DigitalOcean. These are some of the cloud which are public. So, you can get your requirement over there, and you can get your infrastructure on cloud. So that cloud is called as public cloud. Now, what is a private cloud? If you see this diagram over here, so there's one company, that is company A. They have their private cloud, that is company's A's private cloud. So what they have exactly is they have an on-premise data center. So in that data center they have their application server, databases, and several other servers, but access to this cloud is only restricted to company A. So nobody else from other side can access this and can have their infrastructure inside this cloud. Only company A will be able to do this. So now here, the next figure shows us the public cloud. So as you can see, there are multiple companies which are using this public cloud. So just for an instance, take AWS. If I have to host an application, so what I'll be doing is, I'll be getting in touch with AWS, and I will be telling them my requirements. So as per my requirements, they'll be letting me know what exactly I need to have on AWS. So as this figure public cloud, and there are four companies, as you can see. So this four company can simultaneously have their infrastructure here on the public cloud. So the cloud which is available for everyone, basically corporate thing. So that cloud is called as public cloud. So apart from this private and public cloud, we have one more thing coming in, that is hybrid cloud. So please next. Okay, so as you can see this hybrid cloud. So what exactly hybrid cloud is? Hybrid cloud is it combines your private and public cloud. Just let me explain. um, if you have you have your application server on your on-premise data center. Okay, now what you have to do is you have to access the storage at public cloud side. So at this time what you will be doing is, you have to either you have to get your whole setup to cloud, or you have to stay on premises, that is your private cloud. So now here the trick is, if you're using hybrid cloud, so that time what exactly happens is, the hybrid cloud enables you to use the public cloud services by keeping your existing on-premise infrastructure there only. So this will be a revolution in cloud department, you can say that, because this totally connects the on-prem and public cloud together. So yeah, I'm gonna ask you guys if you have any questions on this, private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid cloud, like whatever it is, just let me know if you have any. So it will be better. Before moving to AWS, I'm gonna clear the doubts here if anyone have. Okay, so everybody understood. So yeah, Kriti, can you please play the next slide? uh yeah, so here Ronit Day. Ronit, do you have any question? Okay, so yeah, I guess he don't have. So let's start with AWS. So what exactly AWS is? AWS, every one of us know, it start for Amazon Web Services. So when you plan to learn AWS, the first thing you should be doing is getting your account created. So your account, AWS provides a free tier account for 12 months. So in that account, AWS will be providing you multiple services. I'm gonna name some of it, Amazon EC2, Amazon S3, and Amazon RDS. There are several other services. So let me tell you the core concept of AWS. If you are going with any of the cloud services, it consists of several basic components. First thing is compute, the second thing is storage, the third thing is privacy. Whatever it is, whatever infrastructure it is, privacy and security is must. So for this, here in AWS we have several other services which will be acting as this. So whether you are choosing any of the cloud service provider, the basic services will be same. So here, when you will start to learn AWS, you will be creating your free tier account. So after creating an account, you will be wondering what exactly you will be doing, what exactly you will be going through to getting started with it. So yeah, next slide. Okay, so these are some of the basic services of AWS which I'll be covering in this session. So first one is EC2, that is Elastic Compute Cloud. So what exactly it is? EC2 is whenever you are getting your application on cloud, so you will be needing an application server. So any kind of application server, you will be getting an instance. So what instance here is? Instance is a virtual machine on AWS. So for virtual machine, they named it as AWS. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, the next thing is VPC, virtual private cloud. So as I explained the in very first slide, I explained about private cloud. So here the same concept goes. This VPC, virtual private cloud, uh, this enables you to get your infrastructure isolated. So I'll be covering this one. The second thing is IAM, identity and access management. So this thing is basically the service of your the security of your AWS account. So this define the granular access for users, what exactly the new user will be doing, what level of access he'll be having. The next thing, if you're creating an application on AWS, you will be must to have this S3. So that is a simple storage service. It is basically an object storage. So this is available there, like whether you have to push your logs or you have to store something personal data, so you can use S3. So yeah, moving ahead, we'll be covering more on EC2. So yeah, next slide. Okay. So as I explained, uh, EC2 is the compute service, so which provides you the or the application related service, the server related service, the security related service of that particular application server. So this will be covered under the Elastic Compute Cloud thing. So let me check if I can share my screen. Okay. So you guys able to see my screen? Hello. Okay. Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, so let's continue with the slides only. I guess there is some problem with it. Oh, sorry, you guys can able to do that. Sorry. Okay, so let's start with this. So this is what the Amazon AWS management console looks like. Hope you can see this. So let's scroll the to EC2 service. Okay, so now here, let's just for proper understanding, we'll create an instance over here. So as I told, uh, instance is the virtual machine on AWS. So just for demo, I will be creating a new instance, that is like we'll be launching a new instance here. So first of all, we'll be choosing the AMI. So what exactly AMI here is? So AMI is the named as Amazon Machine Image. What it is just basically the uh, ISO, like ISO file we have, whenever we are installing a system, so we need to have an ISO image. So this is the same here on cloud. So as you can see, there are several things, several ISOs available, several AMIs available, that is Amazon Linux and Red Hat and SUSE and Ubuntu, Microsoft. We have this AWS have everything. Just a moment. Okay, now it's okay, I guess. Okay, so where were I? So we were on AMIs. Now it is okay, Kriti. So another benefit of using this AMIs are, suppose like most of us, most of my audience is developer here, I guess so. So whenever you will require a server just for testing or like developing your code, so that time what you will be doing, you will be installing some tools to write your code. And if like sometimes there is a requirement, if a new guy joins comes in your company, so that time what you will be doing is you will be providing the exactly same server as you are using. So in that case what we will be doing is we will be creating a instance and we will be backing up with the AMI. So what that will do is that will create the same image of your server. So whenever the new guy comes in, whenever you need another server for another testing, that time you can get the exactly replica of the same server which you are using for your development. So this is one of the benefit of using this AMI. And the second thing is like if you have some production kind of servers, and if several things are going on, several changes are in short it is very dynamic. So in that time what we'll be doing is we'll be setting up a lambda script to create the AMIs on the daily basis. So if the server crashes or something happened to that, so that time what will happen is you will always have the backup. So let's get started with it. I have selected the Amazon machine image, which is from Amazon Linux. So here are the uh, different types of instances. Just like you can see the t2.nano, t2.micro. So if I'll click on this, you will be getting the total details for what exactly it is. Suppose just like take this t2.micro. So this instance provide you the like very basic CPU performance server, and you will be like this is eligible under the free tier. This one t2.nano and t3.micro, it comes under the free tier. So if you're using the free tier account for your testing, so go for this one t2.micro. It have enough space. Just like here you will be getting the enough CPUs and memory for your testing purpose. Okay, the second thing is if you want to configure another thing, like you can do here is number of instances, how much instance you want, and the VPC, virtual private cloud, as I explained earlier, and the subnet in which it will be getting launched. So here all the details you will be providing to launch it. Now what I'll be doing is I'll be just reviewing it and launching it. So here I'm getting an error like your security group is open to the world. Now what is open to the world? If your security group is like a initial level of security for your application server. Suppose you have application server on cloud. So if you are like uh, if you want to secure it, if you don't want any other people to access that server, so that time what you will be doing is you will be creating a rule in a security group. So it will define from which source IP you will be allowing the access to your application or your development server, whatever it is. So this now here just for testing I'm creating it, so I'll be leaving it blank. Now here when I'll be launching this, that time one screen window will pop up, that is key pair. So not now what key pair exactly is. Now here in AWS, key pair, as the name suggests, it's a key to your instance. If you don't have that one, so you will not be able to log into your instance. You will be like thrown out of your instance. So yeah, so if you want to choose your existing key pair, create a new pair, proceed with without a key pair. So proceeding without a key pair is not a good idea. So now here I'll be creating a new key pair just for your understanding. So yeah, key pair name. So I'll be giving it as Faraz123. Now here I have to download the key pair because I have to have this one in my server. So now we will be launching it. So if you want to check the status of the server, like where it is getting launched and how it is, you can go here and you can like monitor here what it is, what exactly it's doing in the background. Okay, so now here one more thing. This service is really important, that is elastic block store. What exactly it is? So like whenever we are creating a server, we will be providing it boot space, root volume, we can say that. So this elastic block storage is used to provide the block level storage for it. As I explained, the S3, that is the object level storage. That means you, if you want to understand the basic difference between those, so when I've created this instance, if I'll click on it, so you will be able to see here, I guess. Yeah, just a second. Yeah, so yeah, see, it's running now. So if you will check it here, this is attached. So this volume, this is the block level storage volume. So that means you cannot attach S3 to it, that is S3 bucket. You cannot attach S3 bucket to it because that is the object level storage, and this is the block level storage. That means you will be able to install the operating system on block level storage. You will not be able to install anything on object level storage, that is S3 here. So now the instance is launched. So now here, the again one question comes up, uh, how to connect to this instance. So if you are very new to this, uh, just click connect on here. You will be getting the public IP address, because with the private address, private IP address of this instance, you will not be able to connect to this instance, because that is the private IP. And that's where the virtual private cloud comes in, because your environment is totally isolated, so you'll not be able to get into that. So for that thing, you will be having this public IP address. It's just like a door to your home. So if I'll explain you what exactly the cloud infrastructure is, just imagine your home. So the living room where you have all the thing, TVs and all, that is your application server. So you have the bedrooms. So there you have like that is your block storage, you can say that, block storage or database, whatever it is. And if you want to collect something, whatever you are using here and there, so for that you have a storeroom that is called as S3 bucket here. So whatever the logs and all will be there, that will be stored inside the S3 bucket. So yeah, so this was the basic explanation of like how AWS cloud architecture looks like. So now if you are closing your door, that means you are isolated in your home. So that's what virtual private cloud is. Now here, the second thing is, if you want to go out of your home, so that time you will be needing something to go out. So that's where the internet gateway comes in. So whenever you are creating the VPC, you are attaching the internet gateway to it. So what exactly internet gateway is? Internet gateway is just like your home's main door. Whenever a request goes out, it will be going through the internet gateway. Whenever it will be coming in, it will be coming in through the internet gateway. So that is the use of internet gateway. And as I told you, how the architecture is. So I hope you got that. If you have any if it is bit confusing for you, or is there something which I'm missing out, you guys can tell me. You guys can ask me in the comment section, so I'm gonna answer that one. So yeah, now here, we were connecting to the EC2 instance. So let's connect to this. Yeah. Okay. So it's getting me through the directly. See, you can log in here through the console also, and if you're not comfortable with that, you can get directly SSH. So I hope everyone is aware of SSH over here. So the next thing, now the EC2, the server is launched. So the second thing, let's move towards the IAM, that is identity and access management service. That is the basic security of AWS account, that is your AWS management console. As you guys can see my screen, I'm scrolling through the IAM management console. So what exactly this is? So as you can see here, there are groups, users, roles, policy, identity providers, and account settings. So now what exactly the group is? If you have the application server and you have to provide access to like just say one S3 bucket, AWS EC2 instance to S3 bucket. That instance will be contacting this bucket for storing something. So now, yeah. So now what we will be doing is we will be creating a IAM role for that particular instance. That role will be assuming we will have the policies, that policies will have the necessary permission to connect the S3 bucket. As you can see here, the second thing is users. So yeah, just like there, here is one user, that is Faraz. Now I have the administrator access. I can change my own password. So if, what if I want to get permission to the S3 bucket? I want to access new uh, S3 bucket, or I want to check the entire S3 buckets in my account. So what I'll be doing is I'll be adding the permissions over here. So here what I'll be doing is I'll be attaching the existing policies. So now here what I'll be doing is I'll be searching for S3. So as you all can see here is like, see, Amazon S3 full access. So I have already provided the access. So I already have the administrator access. So just for your proper understanding, I'm doing this. So in this way, you can assign permissions to the new user. You can say that. So yeah, let's move ahead because we are short on time. Yeah. So so the second thing is, let me show you how a S3 console looks like. Yeah, say this. So yes, why S3? Why we are using S3? S3 is as I said, object level storage. But the main benefit of using a S3 bucket is it's highly durable, it's highly secure, it's highly scalable. So when I say scalable, that means whenever you guys are putting some data in it, so if your bucket is of 5 GB, so what you can do is you can increase the size of that bucket to like 10 GB, 12 GB, 100 GB, whatever as per your use. So that is the main use of this AWS S3 bucket. So I hope you are understanding what exactly the buckets are. So this access point is something which shows you the like bucket's origin and what exactly the bucket address. Okay. So now here, when we talk about AWS, so what makes AWS so special? So here, as you can see, this thing is global because one more thing, AWS S3 is a global thing. If I'm telling you the global thing, you'll not be understanding it right now. But just give me a minute. I'm gonna make you understand what exactly the global and the regions are. So here, as you can see, there are several regions which are available. There are North Virginia, Ohio, California. There are multiple others. So what exactly these regions are? So these regions are, in every of this region, AWS have its data center. So why it is essential? So initially when there were no data center in India, so that time what we were doing is we were using Singapore. Why? Because it was the nearest data center to India. So that time why exactly it is used? It is used to reduce the network latency. So just like now I can see there is one data center here in Mumbai. So why this data center is here? Just to get the just to make your infrastructure faster, just to reduce the network latency. These are the regions. So if I am clicking on Mumbai, I have already launched one instance. I already once launched one instance in Ohio. But if I'll go to the EC2 service, I'll not be able to see that instance. See, only one instance is running. That is the previously ran, not this one. See, it have the another key pair that is named as EC2 Mag, and the instance which we were launched was Faraz. So if I'll change this to Ohio, so now we'll be able to see our instance there. So yes, okay. Here, as I have launched the new one, you can see this Faraz 123 which I've recently launched. So yeah, this is something which depends on the region. So this regions are just to reduce the network latency and to make your infrastructure fast. So the next thing coming up is uh yeah. So Kriti, can we move back to slides? Yeah, the last one. I already explained these things to them. Yeah, this one. So yeah, this is the basic architecture diagram of how a application works under AWS AWS cloud. So as you can see, this is the example.com, that is the domain name of the application. So as you can see, this is hosted on Amazon Route 53. Now here, what Amazon Route 53 is. So Amazon Route 53 is a DNS service for AWS. So like you can get your domain name registered here. So in this architecture diagram, what Route 53 is doing, it is getting the traffic from the internet, and it is pushing this traffic to this elastic load balancer. So, elastic load balancing. What exactly elastic load balancer does? Elastic load balancer distribute the traffic among the application servers. So, just like if you have two application server in your backend, so that time what it will do, it will transfer the traffic to both the server equally. So, to prevent the failure of any of the server. So after this, sorry, so after this traffic flows to Amazon EC2 instances. As I explained you, security group is here. This is the initial level of application security. So now here root volume. As I told you, the block storage. So that is here root volume. The data volume, you can attach the one more volume to your EC2 instance. That is your data volume. So now here, as I have told you about the Amazon S3 bucket. So see, as you can able to see here, EC2 instance is pushing the logs to Amazon S3 bucket. So this was the basic architecture of AWS application workflow. We are quite short on time, so I'm not gonna stretch it because yeah. So yeah, this was some points from me on AWS side. If you guys have any other question, just like where to start, how to start, as I already explained, but if you need any additional details, so what you guys can do is, guys can do is, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn and Instagram. So you can message me there. I'm available anytime. You can get me there. You can ask whatever you want to ask. Okay. So the next thing, uh, I'll just conclude it in very short time. So how one can make their path to like tech giants like AWS, Red Hat. So here, just a moment. Okay. So now here, uh, first of all, you need to be technically good, not very good. Not you should be knowing everything, because nobody knows everything. You should be proficient, or you should be very proficient with what you know. And the second thing, communication is the key. When I say communication, I doesn't mean you should be like vocabulary very strong. No, you don't need to be that. You just need to convey what you know. If sometime it happens, like when you know everything but you're not able to communicate, that might be because of fear, that might be because lack of your communication skills. So you have to overcome that, and you have to be very expressive. I can say that you have to you will be able to explain what exactly the person is asking. And yeah, and this third thing is like confidence is the key. The second key, first key is communication, and the second one is confidence. So if you are proficient in what you know and what you do, the confidence like automatically comes up. So yeah, if anybody have anything, any questions or something like I can help with, please ask. So nobody have anything? Okay. Yeah, Akash, I also enjoyed delivering this session, even though it was virtual. This is actually, this is my first time when I'm delivering some virtual session. So I'm like little bit confused whether you guys are able to see me, able to understand me or not. Because when we are like in person, that time when you can directly ask me questions and you can I can directly answer that questions. But this time, like it's a bit confusing for me, because since it's very first for me. Okay, so one question from Mr. Az: how we can grow up our confidence? You can grow up your confidence by doing your daily activities, like whatever you are doing. Like if you are studying something, so try to get in depth, and try to teach others. That is the main key, I can say that. And try to speak up, and try to get yourself into a situation which you are in, which you were never before. So that will really help you to boost your confidence. So yes, I can say that that was all from my side, and I hope you guys enjoyed this session, since this is virtual. So if you have any questions and answer, you can reach out to me over LinkedIn and Instagram. Yep. Okay. Thank you guys. Thank you for such a great audience. And thank you, Divspace, for providing me this great opportunity to be the speaker at this event. And yeah, I enjoyed it. And I'm seeing forward, I'm looking forward to be delivering the session in person at Divspace. I can say that.
Thank you very much, Faraz. It
Yeah.
was really nice session and a detailed one as well. So, uh, thank you for your time and let us join someday again.
Sure, Kriti. It was really pleasure for me that I have delivered this session over here, and I enjoyed a lot. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, guys, have a great day ahead. Have a great evening ahead. Okay, bye.
So this was Faraz Sayed, and now we have the GitHub Developer Relations Manager, that is Karan MV. He is a very enthusiastic person and likes to share a lot with his knowledge with a lot of communities and developers all around. So let us welcome him. Hello, Karan.
Hi Kirti, hi everyone out here. It's great to be here. Some nice questions and engagement and all coming up. So all of you who have tuned in, please keep the questions coming on. And I'm gonna keep it the session a slightly more shorter and interactive so that you guys can get more time to ask the questions as well. Kirti, can you please bring up my screen? All right, great. So I'm not sure how many of you are aware of GitHub or have used GitHub, but before we get into that, hi everyone, I'm Karan, and I lead developer relations for GitHub in India. And what that means is basically I help a lot of the developers, get whatever resources, tools, or pretty much anything that they need to go build some really awesome software. And but before I get into what open source is and how it's going to be helpful and things like that, a quick overview if you haven't heard is GitHub basically like what you see on the homepage when you go to github.com is the development platform where the world builds software. So there are more than 56 million developers who use GitHub from across the world, and what you see over there on the globe is real time. People working together from all across the world in collaborating and in making software. And again, there are more than 3 million plus organizations, and a lot of these Fortune 50 top companies also who are using GitHub in order to build software. And if you have any time heard of GitHub before, most probably you might have heard it in the context of open source, because GitHub is one of the most well-known and well-used places for hosting open source software. The software where it is built by people all across the world, and make it open source so that others can come contribute and then use and do a whole lot more as well. So before I talk a little more about open source or GitHub, etc., I want a quick check from you over here in the comments, to know whether you are interested in knowing more about open source and a career in open source, or you're interested in more in knowing about GitHub, the platform that is used for open source. So if you can just drop in those in comments, I can give you more insights on that. All right, I'm waiting for your comments right now here on YouTube. So you can just drop in one word: GitHub or open source. All right, so there's someone who's asking about open source license. Great, thanks, Akash. If there's anyone else you're interested in knowing more, about, happy to share that as well. Anything else specifically that you're interested in? Okay. So I don't see any comments come in. So I'm gonna do a little bit of both, a little bit of GitHub as a platform, and then also open source. And Akash, thankfully, I will be covering open source license as well. So you can know more about GitHub as a platform. It's you can create a free account, go check out and see how you can collaborate. And this is assuming you know how to use Git, and you have an understanding of what Git is. So Git is basically a version control software that's used to collaboratively develop software in such a way that you're able to manage the different versions of individual pieces of code or the whole software together itself. So what is Git is slightly a little out of scope of this specific session, but I would definitely recommend you to go check out one of the guides for Git. I can show you that as well a little later on. So the way it works is you create a lot of the commits consisting of your code files or changes, etc. What you see is the well-known repository UI of GitHub. And then you can get ready to collaborate with others based on features like pull request, issues, code review, etc. And these are features which are used a lot for collaboration in open source or even within organizations. And then there are ways of kind of like testing your code, ensuring that they are fine, including automation to make your code ready to be deployed, and all of those things that are available as well. So there are more features for you to also use. There's a mobile app where you can check with notifications, respond back to comments, or even do code reviews and approve code changes. There's also a CLI, a command line interface for you to work with your project on GitHub. There's also a complete development environment available on the cloud called GitHub Codespaces, where your development environment will be spun up on the cloud on a virtual machine, and then you can start collaborating with others or even use it as a personal development environment that if you wish to. And of course there are various other ways of getting the best out of how you can collaborate and building the software. An example is the automation, which is using something called as GitHub Actions, and there is also a whole lot of security that you can bring in of finding and fixing vulnerabilities, and also figuring out not exactly bugs but more of secrets within your code. So there's a whole lot more. So I would suggest you go check out on github.com, and then you can know more about GitHub as a platform itself, and how you can kind of use it and make your contributions. Yeah. So speaking about a little bit of open source itself. Now I know one of the things that I believe many of you might be interested in is how is open source going to help you with in your career or in being a better developer, etc. Right. So one thing that I want to share over here is every year here at GitHub, we release a report called as State of the October's, which speaks a lot of what is open source, how is it growing, and things like that, etc. So the 2020 State of the October's is there on octobers.github.com, where you can know more about how everything is going in the open source world. So for example, if you look at the number of people who are making so much of contributions across, there's been close to 2 billion contributions just in the last year. That's how much open source is growing. And 72% of Fortune 50 companies who are using GitHub products for their development. So having an understanding of Git and GitHub is almost considered as something really very basic for most of the developers out there. In fact, there are a lot of students also, like you and many others, who are building some really awesome software on Git and GitHub. I'll show you some examples of that as well. So if you're ever thinking of what language you probably need to start picking up, you can also look at what are the trends of the languages that we are seeing developers using across the world. JavaScript, of course, still happens to be the top language that many developers are using. But again, there are a whole lot of sections you can go through on octobers.github.com. I'm just gonna scroll through a little more to tell you and give you an understanding of how open source really is growing. Yeah, so you can see that there's a whole lot of students and teachers also who are using GitHub. So it's not just people who are within organizations sitting in one of the large companies or so, and then using GitHub, but also many of the students within various different institutions across the world who are using to build software. So something it's really useful to kind of start picking up on in terms of your skill set itself. Yeah. So going back, right, in terms of how open source is going to really help, the very first thing is it's going to help you be a better developer, because one, you get to understand from the best practices of others. So when you are contributing to open source, you're often working with other developers from across the world. So they have different ways of how to tackle a certain problem within the code, and you might have a different approach. So discussing it, you will learn something, or if that person doesn't know, you will probably be teaching them of how to do it. Yeah, so there are various ways where you will be learning a lot more from other developers, so it helps you be a better developer in terms of how to code the solution for a certain problem. That's the one thing. The second important thing is also people skills are really very important in today's world. And when I say people skills, it means how to work with people. So it doesn't just mean how to be good to them or how to communicate with them. That's of course a component, but it also about understanding their background and understanding their point of view, understanding their communication means, and understanding how best to respond, etc. So when you're working in open source, You might be one person, from India sitting and contributing, but the other person who would be working with you and working on the same code might be somewhere in the US, Europe, or even in a non-English speaking country, where English is not their first language, so they might not be able to even communicate properly in English for whatever they are saying, right? So you will learn a lot more of how to um, work with various other developers across the world. Yeah, so it helps you be a good developer. It helps you work well with people. And third also is, these days, GitHub profile, your GitHub profile almost acts like a resume for many of the developers. So most often you can see that whenever you are applying for any developer role, they might ask you for your GitHub profile to take a look at some of the contributions that you have made, or which type of frameworks or languages that you're comfortable with, what is the kind of code that you're contributing, etc. So like how they say, your work speaks a lot more about you than what you say. Similarly, if you go to someone's GitHub profile and look at their contributions and other things, you can easily get to know what is their level of skill set, how do they approach certain problems, etc. And if you are contributing on or contributing to open source on GitHub, by default it's a part of your GitHub profile, right? So if I take a look at say for example one of the projects. Now if I go to github.com/collections made in India, so these are some of the open source projects that um, that either started from India or are being actively built in India. And one of them that I really like to share about is this project called as Hopscotch, which was built by a person called Lias, who figured out, hey, there was something that he needed when it comes to an API request builder, and then went ahead and built it. Right. So if you look at it, there are a whole lot of contributors who are working on it. And if I just go to Lias's profile itself on GitHub, I can really see a lot more of his contributions. So I can see this nice beautiful green graph that shows that he's been consistently contributing to open source. And I can see over here that he's doing a fair bit of all kinds of work. So he's committing, which means he's creating new code. um, so he's doing code review of other people who have submitted, and he's also doing pull requests, which is basically, excuse me, kind of merging others code into GitHub, etc. And also I can get to know a lot more about his projects and what he works on, etc. So it's really inciting. And that's how it kind of like works almost as the new age resume per se, and a profile of what people are really doing in open source. um, so, and also to give you a little more idea, I would I would suggest you to go over to github.com/readme, wherein there are a lot of stories about various different people who are going and contributing to open source, sometimes these big projects, and how it really came up. For example, you can see here Wes talking about pandas, of how it all started. And similarly you can see people and stories of various different fields who are contributing to open source. And also Shika, who contributes to Magento, and has been helping building it. And what's her story of how it started, and how she kind of contributes to Magento, etc. So you can find a lot of these stories out here of various different developers and people, how they kind of started, sometimes from even different walks of life. So I would suggest you go take a look at this. And before I take up some more questions, because I'm really interested to know what are the questions that you have, and kind of address those. I want to address the one thing which Akash has asked in terms of knowing more about open source license. Now, uh, the, so to give you a brief understanding, whenever you create a software and then contribute it back in the open and make it into an open source project, there's always a question which comes into mind in terms of what can you do and what cannot you do with this software. Yeah, and that's where things like a license come into play, because the license clearly tells you what you can do, what you cannot do, and also acts as a legal help for you and for your project. Yeah. So to understand a little more of that, there is a website that GitHub and many of the community contributors have put together called choosealicense.com. So if you go to choosealicense.com, you can get to know a little more about the various different licenses that's are available out there. You can see that there is the popular ones: MIT, GNU GPL. You have Apache 2. For example, if you say, okay, I need to work in a community, then you can say Apache 2.0, and then there's GNU GPL, there is MIT licenses, etc. And you can understand more about what these licenses are. For example, the MIT license basically tells you that, in a nutshell, you can use the software commercially, you can distribute it, you can modify it, and you can also use it private use. The condition is that the license and the copyright notice should always be included within whatever you're doing. The limitation is that there is no liability or no warranty. So basically, if something happens because of the software containing this license, you can't go trace back to that person and then ask them, hey, this happened to me because of your license. That basically is no warranty or no liability, etc. So there are a lot of details about such kind of licenses. Another example is Apache 2.0 is again has more details and a high level of what are the permissions that it provides, under what conditions, and under what limitations, etc. Right. So Akash, I hope this answers your question. Are there any other questions or anything else that you're curious to learn more about? Okay, so looks like there's one more question of how can we get contributors for a project? How can we reach to various developers for contribution? That's a good question. So there are various different ways, and I wouldn't want to kind of cover everything out over here, but the key thing is to ensure that you spread the word about your project, what it does, and really show the value of that project, yeah, in various different ways. So that's in a nutshell. But to get an idea of what it is, I would suggest that you head over to another guide that we have called opensource.guide, and here you can see a lot more of how to contribute to open source, finding users, building welcoming communities for contributing, best practices for maintainers, code of conduct, the legal side, metrics, pretty much everything that you want to know about open source. So I believe something around building welcoming communities is where there is more details of how you can find more contributors and also probably potential maintainers for your project. So suggest you go through this, because this has a lot more detail than what I can cover right now in a limited amount of time. So any other questions or anything else that you want to know about? All right, so I'm assuming it is only so much that you want to know about. So if you want to stay tuned in to more in terms of what's happening in GitHub and then open source in India, I would suggest that you follow our Twitter handle, which is GitHub India, and you can get to know a lot more, and we'll be talking a lot more, and then you can go back and then see what's happening elsewhere as well. And also I would suggest you go check out the GitHub India virtual meetup. We have a lot more sessions which keep happening on DevOps and other things, etc. So interesting question coming in: how to choose a project to contribute. um, I'm going to give you one or two tips for that. There are multiple ways. One is, uh, see what are the projects that you are actually using right now. Say for example, you are developing something in Python and you're using, say, Django, or if you're doing PHP and using Laravel or Symfony, or any of those frameworks or multiple other packages, etc. You often, when you're using it well enough, you will figure out that there are some things that you really want to know more about, or you want to fix it and it's not working well for you. Basically figure out what are the issues or problems that you are having uh, with the projects that you yourself are using, because then it will give you an idea as both a user of that project, what is the issue that you're facing, and also being a developer, you can find ways of how to fix this. I do this often, even internally at GitHub, or even for the open source projects. For whatever I'm using, if I come across something that doesn't feel right, or I feel I can help contribute, improve it, I immediately go and then create commits and create pull requests in order to help grow it. But if you're just getting started, one thing that I would suggest is, um, if you go into certain project, and here I have again hopscotch open, there are issues tab where you can find a lot more of the kind of issues or kind of contributions that people are wanting or talking about, etc. And these are all in color that you see are tags. So an example is, most of the projects have this tag called good first issue. Yeah. So good first issue basically tells you that these are good for people who are new to open source, and it is not just in this specific project. But if I just go over to GitHub search and then I say label as good first issue and all of GitHub, I can find all the issues which have this label, and then you can go filter based on the languages as well. Say for example, you want to do something in Python, you can look for those, and then you can kind of further filter on based on open issues, which means where you can contribute to. And then I'm going to just filter open issues, and there are potentially 22,000 issues which are good first issues, for which means for people who are very new. So if I just go take a look at say one of this, I don't know what this project is, but it says it's a good first issue. It says it says that there's an enhancement, and you can, it doesn't really explain what is to be done. Maybe you need to have a little more idea of what that project is. But some projects kind of give more details. um, I think probably this one has something where, okay, it says create a contribution guideline for Python, and this is what it should be named as, and things like that. So you can kind of go pick up and then leave a comment over there, say, hey, I can take this up, and then go and then work on it, and create a pull request for it, etc. Okay, so the another question: do we need to apply for copyright before getting an open source license like GPL? So these are two separate things. Copyright and an open source license can be separate. So it depends on what you really want to do. Yeah. So in some of the projects there is both a copyright notice a copyright usage and also a license. Yeah. So the way that it is structured is slightly different, but most often you don't need it. Most often, having a license for a certain project is as simple as just including that license file. I can show you that. So if I go over here and in fact, if I just go to the plus sign and say create a new repository, and if I have a create a repository and say, for example, I say Divspace's repository, right? And if I make it public and it says choose a license, yeah, and when you choose a license, that is the license that will get applied to your um, your project. It's often as simple as that. So if I just say MIT license, and if I just create a repository, you will have that license file within that project, which basically will have the MIT license and again the permissions, etc. So there itself, the copyright also, will be included most often. So it's usually as simple as just including that license file. I hope that answers your question. Great. So, all right. Oh, someone said didn't know GitHub had that option. Yes, there are a lot of things, in fact, that you can do on GitHub, which you might have probably not seen before. So I would suggest you take a look at our blog. There are a whole lot of new things that keep coming up very very frequently. A lot of new releases. So if you go into change log, in fact, in case you're not aware, there's an engineering blog as well where many of our engineers speak about how we build GitHub and the culture and things like that. But the change log is where a lot of the features kind of get announced. An example is access control for GitHub pages, where you can have access control for GitHub pages, and kind of like control who will be able to see it, who will be able to contribute, and whole lot of other things. So I would suggest that you kind of take a look at the GitHub blog for a lot of the things that's coming up new. All right, so unless there are no other questions, back to you, Kirti.
So that was interesting to know about open source. And let me ask you, how do we actually maintain those open source projects? It's my personal question.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, maintaining of the projects has multiple components to it. One is maintaining the code. Uh, that is, you do it with the help of contributors and, time spent during your weekends, or, some of the lesser off times that you get, etc. So there's one component of maintaining the code itself to ensure that the project is growing and is, bugs are being fixed, features are being developed, etc. The second component also is sustainability. Yeah, so sustainability means that it is not just the project which is growing in terms of features or quality, etc., but also the people who created it or the people who are maintaining it have enough in order to maintain it. Yeah. So a key thing is, one, for example, like how someone asked, how do you find more people? Yeah. So if it is just one person, I cannot sustain it for longer because I need the help of more people. Yeah. So second is also money, right? So if I'm having a day job like how most of them do, and then I'm still contributing to open source, I would need some money, in order to ensure that I'm able to kind of like grow this, or probably I'm getting some money out of it, etc. And that is where we have things like GitHub sponsors. Um, if you can bring up my screen, I can show you that where people can come and then sponsor your GitHub projects, and you can get money from sponsors who want to support your project. So just a heads up, this is not yet available in India, but we're working on getting this very soon to India as well, so that if you're contributing or maintaining an open source project, you will be able to raise some amount of money as well to to keep your project growing.
Exactly. So that was it from my side. And thank you, Karan, for joining us today.
Great, thanks, Kirti, and thanks for all of you tuning in. I hope there was some key takeaways. I know there was not much of a detail that I went into, because a whole lot of the resources I shared with you, where you can go and then read up more into the details that you want. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, and stay safe.
You too. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
So, guys, after this very beautiful seminar, we can have some giveaways. How about that? Please comment down that you want giveaways. So I can see the excitement growing. But I think our next speaker is already in the line, you see. So it is Rishit Dagli. Guys, have you ever imagined what ML, machine learning, can do to your Android apps? Well, if you haven't yet imagined, then here is Rishit Dagli, who is a TEDx speaker, who is an Android developer, and a TensorFlow, also a TensorFlow mentor. So I welcome him, and I think he is there. Yeah, he is there. Hey, hi.
Oh, I guess I was muted. It doesn't happen in a single conference when I start speaking and I'm not muted. Hi, how are you doing?
We are so fine. Let us begin. We are all waiting for you.
Cool. I'll quickly start presenting my screen and tell you what I'll be talking about and then actually start up. Give me a moment. And here it is. You should now be able to see my screen. Okay. Yeah, so I expect you to be able to see my screen now. And you will also be able to see, yeah, you can see that. And you'll also be able to see some captions under the screen, so it could possibly be a lot more easier for you to follow along. So yeah, you could also make use of that. Okay, so hi everyone, and I'm Rishad, uh, as Kirti just mentioned, and today I'll be talking about superpowering your Android apps with ML. And this is particularly a topic which I'm pretty excited to talk about, since I work a lot with ML, work majorly with ML, and then I've also worked a bit with Android. So how you can get your machine learning models to work on Android devices, that's pretty exciting, I feel. And also, since almost everyone has an Android device, It's kind of important to know how you can make your machine learning models run on Android devices in the palms of people. That just sounds so cool. So yeah, that is what we'll be talking about today. And if you saw the intro video for this session, uh, there's no problem if you haven't yet seen it. I'll not ask you to go ahead and see it right now. But if you have seen the intro video for this session, you'll know that this will not just be a session where I'll be talking about something and you'll be listening. So we'll try to live build a couple of applications, a couple of Android applications which have the ML component in them, which run ML algorithms. So yeah, that is what also we'll be doing at the end of this session. So we'll go through building an application while we are in the session, and at the end of the session, I'll try to run the application we created on my own mobile device. And you can do it or with your own mobile device too. You can try all of this and a lot more on your own devices too. So that will be pretty much what we'll be talking about today. So a bit about me. I'm a 11th grade student, a high school student. I'm also a TEDx and TEDx speaker. So yeah, I've talked a bit about my journey, and I was invited by TED to talk a bit about my journey and how I got started into programming. If that is something you're interested in, feel free to take a look. And I also love hackathons and competitions, and I have won a couple of international ones and represented my country too. I also love research and have written a couple of research papers in the field of ML. So be sure to check them out if you're interested in the research aspect. And you can find more about me. My coordinates are all at rishit.tech. Feel free to visit it. You can find me on Twitter or GitHub or any other social media to say. If you have any questions or want to connect with me, here's how you do that. Okay, so enough about me. Uh, so before going on, I would like to acknowledge Saik Paul, who's a machine learning GD, Khan Leviat from Google, and Hoy Lam from Google, who helped me review these slides which you are seeing right now, who helped me review the content which you are seeing right now, so I could bring to you all a better version of these. So a huge thanks to them. With that, I'll make this pretty quick, but I feel it's important since this is a rather technical talk. I feel it is important to make a mention about who the ideal audience would be, who is the ideal audience I'm looking for in this talk. So, the ideal audience would essentially be mobile developers who are looking for ways to build smarter applications. And if you want to um, if you want to integrate machine learning in your existing applications, doesn't matter if you don't have a lot of knowledge about machine learning or you're not a professional Android developer, so to say. You will be well able to follow along with this talk. Okay, so first off, before I actually get into how do you do this, and we'll be talking about some of the coolest updates for on-device ML and how do you actually make ML run on the mobile device, which is on your palm, whereas you might have heard ML models being trained on huge GPUs for multiple days and being trained, or essentially the idea I'm trying to convey is they being trained on huge servers, which have which are like more than a room big, take a lot of days. So how do you actually get it on a mobile device? So, but before that, I do want to talk about why you should be caring about ML in Android in the first place. Why not those servers and big machines? So I'll not talk much about this so you can get to the cool stuff pretty quick. But I'm sure you know how the number of Android devices have increased exponentially, and or so to say the number of mobile devices have increased exponentially, and are also aware about how ML is revolutionizing pretty much every industry out there. So it just makes sense to make this power of ML available to everyone. And how do you do that? How do you make this power of ML available to everyone? Well, mobile devices. And I'm sure you already use products like Google Photos, Gboard, Prisma, and it's due to ML that these are so powerful. So that brings us to the question, since we are going to talk majorly about on-device ML today, which is running the machine learning algorithm on your phone and why it is efficient, why you should care about it. So I want to talk a bit about that since we'll be talking a lot about on-device ML today. So uh, so you'll soon see a couple of reasons why this would be important. And Android 11 too has a lot of cool stuff for on-device ML. So first off, what this hype about on-device ML or ML on edge all about? So the idea here is to use ML such that opposed to the traditional approach, I no longer send all of my data. So let's say I want to perform an inference or run my machine learning algorithm on a video feed or a video streaming, something I capture from my mobile phone, mobile camera. So opposed to the traditional approach, I no longer have to send all of my pictures or let's say videos to a server or some cloud-based system which does the ML for me and then returns me the outputs. So let's say I want to see if an image has maybe some animal. So as an example, let's take I want to know if my image has a bear, the images which my user clicks. If it has a bear, I want to label the image as this image contains an animal called bear. You see some of this something similar happening with you in Google Photos too. So just a simple example which you all can relate to. So in this case, I would not have to send all of my images or data to some cloud hosted server. I instead which would then do the ML on those images and return me the outputs. I would instead get my outputs or inferences from my machine learning algorithm on the device itself. So that is, I no longer send data out of my device. I no longer have to send data to a server or some cloud hosted system in specific. This and well, this also means that I do all the processing and inference stuff in the mobile device itself. So I actually run the ML algorithm on the mobile device. So with that, I hope you got some idea about how ML on edge is all about. So coming back to the question, why is this something you want to care and why the extra effort? So the first thing that would come to your mind is power consumption. I spend a lot of power sending or streaming my data continuously to a server, and sometimes it just becomes infeasible to do so. But yeah, worth a mention, in some scenarios, the opposite could also hold true. When you are trying to do heavy pre-processing on your images, the opposite could also hold true. But usually, power consumption is something you would want to consider. Another important thing to consider is the time it takes for me to get the output or essentially run the ML model. So, with that example we took, I would essentially have to send all my images to a server which does the ML, returns me the outputs of which I have to make sense of and then show to my user. Now, I no longer send it to a server, I do all the ML algorithms or try to perform the ML inferences on my mobile device itself. So for real-time applications, this is a pretty important aspect to consider, the inference time. If you're working with a video feed or something of that sort, inference time is just a lot less on edge devices. And finally, I think you all guess this, super simple out there. This is expensive in terms of network availability. I should have the bandwidth or network to continuously send data and receive inferences from the server. So yeah, again in the example we mentioned, you just need a lot of network if you're trying to perform or run ML algorithms on, let's say, a video stream or a live video stream. It just takes a lot of network, which you may not have available. Finally, security or privacy, as you may call it. I no longer send data to a server or cloud based system. And well, I no longer send data out of my device itself. So, what does that mean? I essentially have privacy ensured in my application. And don't take me wrong, there is a lot more you actually need to do to ensure privacy, but this is definitely a major step you did right there. So now with that gone out of the way, and you having understood that why the extra effort, why care about running your machine learning models on the mobile device, I want to talk a bit about what Android 11 has for us to do all what we discussed, machine learning on edge. One of the most coolest updates is the machine learning model binding plugin with Android 11. And so what the ML binding plugin does for you is, and I think you can make a fair enough guess from the name model binding. And before I move any further, I just wanted to tell you that the machine learning model binding plugin requires Android Studio 4.1 or above. So if you're planning to run it with Android Studio 3, you can't do that. So the ML model binding plugin makes it super easy for you to use a TensorFlow model or a TensorFlow model in your application. You essentially have a lot less code to write that calls the TensorFlow Lite Android support library, and it just gets a lot more easier to use machine learning models on edge with the model binding plugin. And there's a lot more you can do, so we'll take a greater look into this, but for now you can understand that there's a lot more you can do with the model binding plugin. You can import a TF Lite model very easily, read the input output signatures, and use it with just a few lines of code. And if there are any folks who have worked with machine learning on edge earlier with the TF Lite Android support library, you know that you earlier had to convert everything to byte arrays. With the machine learning model binding plugin, that's no longer the case. So another plus one for you all. Yeah, and there's no problem if you haven't worked your hands on machine learning on edge earlier. You'll still be able to follow along all what I talk about. What I also love about this new plugin is you can easily make use of GPUs and the neural network API very easily. So with the model binding plugin, using hardware accelerators has never been easier. So using them now is just a dependency call and a single line of code away. Yeah, that's right. You heard me right. A dependency call and a single line of code away, made pretty easy. And you'll see how that happens, but isn't that cool what you can do with the model binding plugin? Use the GPU of your mobile device very easily to run the ML algorithms. And of course, this would make your development a lot more faster with the features we just talked about. You have easy support for integrating your models. So yeah, uh, this is one update we'll talk about right now. So first off, what I would want to do in this in the next 30 minutes or so is that, as I said, instead of just talking about a couple of things, what we'll do is we'll now start, now that you know that there's something called the model binding plugin, which helps you run machine learning models on edge. What I want to do is try to build out an application which can run a sample machine learning algorithm on edge. So we'll now start to build an application in this session along with me. So yeah. So the first step I want to do is import my TensorFlow Lite model with metadata, right? So I want to import my machine learning model first off. So Android Studio has this new option for importing a TensorFlow model. I think you might not be able to see the text clearly in this slide, but I'll be sharing slides later and you can make it out, or you can just follow along what I say. So just right click on the module you want to import your model in, And then you will see a new option over there called TF Lite model. So this is what you'll be using. So you can now just pass in the path of your TensorFlow Lite model. It will import the model for you in a directory in the module called ML. So it will make a new directory in the module you import this in called ML, and that is where your model will be stored. So you can maybe see, don't worry if you can't make out the exact text, but under the importing the model checkbox, there's under importing the model dialog, there's another checkbox which allows you to add GPU dependencies. So that is just a click away right over here. So what we'll be building over here is a simple application. So as I told you all, I want to build an application together in this session. So the application we'll be building right now is based on a open source model I created some time back. So that model, if you show your camera a rock, papers or scissors, the model is correctly able to classify that. And that is what we'll be building based on the open source model I created some time back. So now I can see some of my model metadata right over here. I can also know the input output shapes and a lot more that I need to use it. So you can see this info by opening the TF Lite model file in Android Studio. You can see the metadata of it. So yeah, you can see right over here that I'm using an open source model to classify between rock, paper, scissors. And and as it shows in the output shapes, there are essentially three categories: rock, papers, or scissors, as you might have guessed. So let's finally start using the model. So for a streaming inference, which is most probably what you would want to do, uh, or as you can see, live image classification, the easiest way would be to use camera X and pass each frame of this function uh, and pass each frame of your live video feed to a function which can perform the inference. So what I'm interested in as of now is the function which actually does the inference or which actually runs the ML algorithm. And you'll also see how easy it is to do this. And a sample code of this is also seen when you import a TF Lite model, which you can also make use of. So we'll start by instantiating. Oh, I guess I don't know why, but I went offline for a moment. I think I'm back now. Yeah, got it. Okay, so we'll start by so now we want to start using our model and start uh, and so now we want to start using a TF Lite model. So we'll start by instantiating a rock paper scissors model, as the name suggests, RPS model, and pass it with the context. With the plugin, my model name was RPS model.tflite. So a class of the exact same name, RPS model, is created for me. And once I do this, you need to convert your data into a form that that machine learning model binding plugin can use. So we'll convert it into a tensor image from bitmap. If you use the TensorFlow Lite interpreter earlier, for folks who have used that, uh, for the folks who haven't had hands-on with the TensorFlow Lite interpreter, there's nothing you should be worrying about. But for folks who have worked with it, you know that at this stage, you essentially need to convert your image to a byte array, and you don't need to do that anymore. So a plus one for you all. And yeah, you'll feed, and I'll just convert it into a tensor image, and I'll feed it in the image proxy. So now I want to pass in my data. Now that I have my data and it is converted into a form which is usable, I actually want to pass in my data and run the ML algorithm on it, right? So so you see this large chunk of code and there's nothing to be afraid of. We'll break this down line by line so you understand each and every bit of it. So first we'll process the image from the model and get the outputs. So the RPS model dot process, which you can see right over here, is essentially me running the model and getting the outputs from it. So the outputs would essentially be an array of probabilities. So my model would tell me how much probability is, or does the model think it is for a rock, or how much probability does the model think it is for a paper, and so on. You essentially get the idea. So that is what the model will be returning to me. And then I just perform a couple of transformations for sake of simplicity, or you could say to build out a demo out of this. I perform a couple of transformations. But at this stage, I want you to know you have an array of probabilities. It is all up to you what you want to do from next year, which suits your business case. But in this example, I perform a descending sort on it, which is showing the list of probabilities, showing the list which has more probability first, and then pick up the first end results. So in this case, we just have three outputs, right? Rock, papers, or scissors. But let's say you want to try and run the very popular MobileNet model with the ML model binding plugin. You would essentially have so the model would essentially return you 1,000 outputs or 1,000 labels with confidences of it. So I don't want to, if you try recreating this demo with some other model, I don't want you to run into that problem. So I just have the dot take over here, which takes up the top few results. But what you need to know is this essentially is a list, and you can do whatever uh, your business case suits. So I'll add the label corresponding to each entry in the outputs, and that's nothing new. That is just something I want to show to the user that my model has detected a rock, or my model has detected a paper, and so on. That is what I'm showing to the user. So, and that's pretty much all. It's made super easy for you all. And if you want to use GPU acceleration, like I mentioned, it's really easy to use hardware accelerators with the model binding plugin. All you need to do is make an options where I specify it to use a GPU. So there's just one line of code which you need to add. So where I'll ask it to use a GPU, and in the instantiation part, I would just pass this as an argument, and that's it. You can use your mobile GPU very easily. Right? So the multi-banding plugin also makes it very easy for you to use the neural network API. And with Android 11, you have a lot of cool updates to the neural network API too, including asymmetric indate weights on mobile devices and a new quality of service API. But I'll leave that for some other talk, since this is meant to be an overview of machine learning on edge, or how you could rather make your first step. So I'll leave that for some other talk. With that, we just live built a rock paper scissors classifier on a mobile device, and at the end of this talk, I'll also try to run it on my mobile device, what we all just coded in the past 15 or so minutes. I'll also try to run it live on my mobile device. So hang on till the end. With that, let's talk about other major development with Android 11, which is a newer ML kit, which majorly focuses on. Uh, and before I move on about what ML kit is and when should you be using ML kit, when should you be using model binding plugin, for folks who have worked with ML kit earlier, it would be cool to know for y'all that MLKit is now usable without having a Firebase project. You can now use MLKit even without a Firebase project. So, as I said earlier, a lot of these updates are focused on on-device ML. That is also something we are interested in today, running machine learning models on your device. So, due to the benefits I mentioned earlier, the new ML kit now has better usability for on-device ML. you'll see how it is made a lot more easier for you. And the ML kit, image classification and object detection and tracking. So if you want to do something of the sort, image classification and object detection with the ML kit, uh, you would be really fascinated to know that you can do this very easily and customize it too. So these models now also support custom models which run on top of these. So which means you can have it, you can just have a TF Lite model along with the state of the art models with MLKit. So that's again pretty cool, and we'll specifically see this part in action since I'm very excited about this part, customizing the state of the art pre-trained models with MLKit. So we'll also see this in action pretty soon. So what this also means is, let's say if you're working on some generic kind of use case, a specific kind of object detection. As an example, let's say I want to build an application which can classify between, if I show it an image, it can tell me if this image is a dog or a cat. And this also works the same way in a streaming mode, which is I take a live video from my mobile phone and the model draws bounding boxes around the dog and tells me that this is a dog, draws bounding boxes around the cat, tells me that this is a cat, and so on. You get the idea. So what I mean to tell you all is that if you're working on some generic kind of use case, like the one I just mentioned, a specific kind of object detection, MLKit is pretty much the best thing to use. Since you essentially have the ability to build on top of the state-of-the-art pre-trained models, and you do not will start making these models from scratch. So if you're working on a generic use case, MLKit is the go-to for you. So enough of talking about MLKit. Oh, but before I move forward, for folks who have not worked with MLKit or want to know quick about all the available models with MLKit, these are a couple of models with MLKit. You also see we have a couple of new models with MLKit. So yeah, this is all what you can do with MLKit. We'll be taking an example of this today and see what new features are there with MLKit, try to implement them. But everything we talk about today is well applicable for all the other models. So we'll be talking about image recognition and object detection and tracking today. But everything we talk about will be transferable to, let's say, language identification or text recognition, barcode scanning, face detection, and so on. So yeah, we'll be taking an example of this to understand it better. And like I said, we'll be building a live application. So here I want to build an application, an Android application, which when shown a photo of a food item, can tell me which food item it is. So that is a simple little application which you can get your hands on, built as a demo. So we'll try to build on something in this session too. Yeah, so first off, I'll start by setting the model and specifying the TF Lite model file for it. The same for both of these approaches. I'll tell it where my TF Lite model file is, right? Also, in here I need to add it as an asset earlier. So just something you should be knowing about. After which, so remember I told you that greater customization in MLKit is something really exciting, something you'd really love. And so yeah, that's it. The TF Lite model is actually running on top of a state-of-the-art pre-trained machine learning model from MLKit, right? So I essentially want to run my model on top of another model, and I can perform some optimizations to it or customizations to it, as I should rather say. So you can customize these options a bit, and so yeah, it is not your own model. The underlying model isn't exactly the model you have developed, so you cannot customize each and every aspect of this. but you can make a good amount of customizations. And I have made a couple of customizations in this slide. Feel free to check them out or make any changes while you run this demo. So first off is a simple one over here. I'm telling it to you perform live image classification or perform image classification on a live video streaming on a live video stream. You can also change this to passing it photos and so on. And then I also set my confidence threshold to 80%. You can tune around this value and try out which one works best for you. Okay, so let's actually get to the part where we run the model. So again, I want you to know that there is nothing to get intimidated about by seeing a lot of this code which you don't understand. But we'll try to break it down very simply and understand what each and every line over here does. So don't get intimidated by seeing a lot of additional code which you don't understand. So I want to process my image, right? The each and every image frame which I get. So I'll process my image, and the thing to note here is all of these are listeners. So after I actually process my image or essentially run my model on an image, I have three listeners over here. So it would be better, I think, to show around. Um, Give me a moment. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I'm not able to use the pointer. But yeah, so what I do want you to know is that you can see three listeners over here, which is the on failure listener, the on success listener, and the on complete listener. So I hope you can see that from the screen, and you can see that the on failure listener is just writing out something through the debug log, not something I care about at this stage. What I do care about is my on success listener, which is the model is successful in predicting from a frame on the continuous video stream. So what should I do after that? Well, I want to draw a bounding box around my prediction, right? So that is exactly what I'm doing with the graphics overlay. And I'm drawing a bounding box around the prediction which my model made and showing it to the user. And yeah, once that's done, I come on the incomplete listener. So the incomplete listener will simply close up the image proxy and prepare it for the next inference or inference on the next frame. So that's essentially what this code does, and you can now see it's super simple to work with MLKit too. And another thing I want you all to know, if you is that all of these listeners which are here are essentially tasks, so they need to be attached for every single run. And that is pretty much all you need to do to start working with MLKit, start running your models with MLKit. Uh, just uh, just made a lot more easier for you. I think this is pretty cool too. So that is pretty much all about working your models on with the ML kit and the model binding plugin. I want to talk a bit about folks about non-machine learning folks about actually building those TF flight models, because in both cases we use a TF flight model, right? So I'll not talk much about this since I'm running out of time, but you can build great models with it. Build great models with the TF flight model maker, which is what I use to make the rock, paper, scissors model. So the first application which we worked on, the first model which we worked on was essentially made with TF Lite Model Maker. And I'll share links to the source code if you want to go over it. I'll share the repository. You can also take a look at TF Hub, where you can find a lot of state-of-the-art models. So remember the second example we looked at, the example where we try to see images and tell which food item is present in that image. So that model was essentially taken from TF Hub. So you can go on to tfhub.dev, find great models which might just suit your need. And I also have a couple of models on tfhub. Feel free to check them out. And yeah, you also get to use models from the community. So these are not just the only publishers on TensorFlow Hub, but I could only fit these many in a single slide. So with TF Hub, you essentially get to use models from the community. And with that, let's move on to some live demos. And here is where we made two applications today live and two applications together in this talk. I tried to run one of these applications on my Android device, and the source code for both is present in this repository. So if you want to look back at anything or refer back to anything, this is the one which you should go to. So just follow this link. What I'll do is maybe one of the organizers could paste this in the chat if that's possible. Okay. So take a moment to note this, or I'm also pasting the same link in the chat, so it might be a lot more easier for you all. And yeah, I've pasted the link in the chat. Feel free to refer back to it. Great. I'll quickly switch my screen. Hang on with me for a moment. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think my screen should be visible. Okay. Yeah. My screen is visible now. Oh, it went out again. Could you bring up my screen? Okay, cool. So I think my screen is visible now, and this is the GitHub repository I was talking about. Anything you want to refer back to, you'll most likely find it in this GitHub repository related to the talk. You'll also find the slides for this talk on this GitHub repository. So yeah, let's talk about the live demos. So I try to recreate or essentially we have created one. I want to run my rock paper scissors application on my mobile device. So this is essentially the class I was concerned about, a function which essentially does all of my, which essentially runs my model. So first off, I'm specifying which model I want to use. It is the RPS model, and then I actually create a TF image, which is essentially creating a tensor image or converting my data into a form which I can use. After which I actually run my model, get my list of probabilities, and then perform some transformations on it. Super simple. I sorted by descending and take up the top few examples. You can also change this. With that, we just took a quick look over the inference code with the model binding plugin and for the app which we built along in the talk. Let's go ahead and try to see a live demo of it. And well, I could show this in an Android emulator, but I have a mobile device with me, so why not just show in a real mobile device? So okay, give me a moment. I'll try to share my mobile screen with you all. And okay, yeah. So now my mobile device screen should be visible to you all. It seems a bit laggy, and that's because I'm live streaming and also sharing my mobile device screen wirelessly to all of you. But when you run the application, it will be super smooth. The inference time will be a lot less. So let's see if my keyboard makes a good background for me. And let's put the first label over here, which is a rock in front of it. Let's see. Oh, and it tells me that it has and it tells me that it has identified a rock with almost 80%, 75 to 80% probability, which is pretty cool for an application. So yeah, feel free to try out this application for your own too. Uh, and yeah, that is pretty much a demo of one of the applications which we made in this talk. Okay, so with that, I'm pretty much at the end of my talk. If you're and I would be ready to take any questions. But till then, if you have any questions, I would love to take them. But till then, feel free to take a look at the slides. All of the slides which I use are publicly available. So feel free to follow this link which you see on your screen right now. I'll also paste it in the chat. And if you have a mobile handy and want to scan up the QR code, you could also do that. So yeah, feel free to note down this link. I'll also be pasting it in the chat, or if you want to scan up the QR code, that's also doable. Okay. Yeah. Oh, thanks to the organizers for pasting the link in the chat. And with that, I don't have a lot of time, so I leave it up to the organizers. If we have any questions, I'd love to take them.
So, hey Rishit, it was really a brainstorming session that you just gave. And yes, it was a nice demo. I love the demo.
Oh, thank you. Oh, and since you mentioned the demo, it's available for everyone to try out on your own mobile devices. So on the GitHub repository. Uh, so yeah, feel free to take a look at the GitHub repository too, and try out the demo for your own.
Sure, sure, of course. We'll be using it and trying it out. Thank you for your time and this amazing session.
Thank you for attending the session, and I hope you took back something from it. Thanks a lot for inviting me. It was a pleasure to talk at Divspace. And bye.
Bye. So, guys, this was Rishit Dagli, and now we have our star speaker, that is Miri Rodriguez. She is the Global Intern Program Head of Microsoft, and she is joining us all over from Florida, United States. So let us welcome her. Hey Miri,
Hi, Kriti. How are you?
I'm very fine. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm excited. It's a really nice day today. It's very sunny, and when I talk to my friends in Seattle, they get really jealous of me because it's not sunny over there sometimes.
Indeed, indeed.
How's the weather in your neck of the woods?
Oh, it's evening right now,
Yeah.
so yeah, pretty cool weather.
Okay, cool weather. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
So, I know that you asked some specific questions for this audience. So I have some prepared slides for everyone to share. These were around internships, of course, at Microsoft. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also talk about what is important to stand out for an internship. How do I stand out in my in this COVID-19 era and post COVID-19 era, and how does this affect our careers? So I think there's some good topics we're going to be talking about today.
I'm so excited, and please begin.
Excellent. So let me share my screen very quickly, and hopefully everyone can see it. Some topics that I know came up, and for this audience, it's really relevant. Everyone's asking almost the same questions. We hear them from different spaces. And I personally, not only do I lead the intern program at Microsoft, but I'm also a marketer, I'm a storyteller. And so I hear from different industries as well, right? So one of the things is like, hey, how does this affect students? What's happening around the world when we are working from home and doing internships from work, from home? What does that look like now? What would it look like in the future? And I want to start with the idea that our very founders also started at home, right? So it's not a foreign concept. Many years ago, when startups were thinking, how do we start a company, and they started in their homes. And so a lot of times we think we have to go to a specific place to have an experience, but the reality is, especially now, technology in the midst of our pandemic has taught us that we are resilient, that we can leverage creativity and innovation when we are home. And so one of the things that for us is important is also the health of our employees. And so this year, coming off of 2020, our fiscal year at Microsoft begins in July. And so our FY21, so our fiscal year 21, from July 2020 to July 2021, most of our internships will be virtual. And that is because we still are obviously affected by this pandemic. Countries around the world continue to be affected, borders continue to be closed. However, we do think about some opportunities in some parts of the world. There will be opportunities for interns to actually go in person. That will depend on the location itself of the internship. For Americas specifically, this will not apply to you in India, but for Americas, we are still going to be virtual. In places like India, Asia, places, maybe around the world in Europe, parts of Europe, if it comes to a point where the office itself may be open, so it will depend on each office, each location, each region, then there might be an opportunity for an intern to serve at the time that they are, entering the space. We have different time zones or timelines for our internships. So around the world, we don't all begin at the same time. In Americas, for example, we have off-season interns, we have fall and winter, and then we also have summer. Our summer class is typically our largest class. But around the world, we also have, in India, for example, our interns start in spring, which is different than summer. So there are some overlaps, and there's not the same cohort or class for every intern around the world. Now, before we were virtual, we were able to host international students in the Americas. For example, if you came from India, you could apply. If you lived in India, you could apply for an internship in the United States. And if you qualified for the internship, we'd actually host you. We would bring you and host you for 12 weeks to serve your internship. That will not be possible, unfortunately, this time around. And the reason for that is tax and payroll implications. If you are an international student working outside of the United States, there's different limitations that we have to be able to pay you. For example, working outside of the United States, but you're really working for the United States. So there are some nuances that unfortunately, we were not able to work through. And so now we are offering location-based only internships. So if you're in India, we are offering India internships, and you're more than welcome to join us in our India office and apply for our India internships. All you have to do is go to Microsoft Career Students, just type that in, Microsoft Career Students online, and you'll be able to find information regarding location, regarding these notices around international and virtual internships that we are offering in the locations. One of the things that came up in this space was how COVID-19 can impact my internship and my job. I did some research around this. I knew some of the answers, but I wanted to make sure that I was giving you the most up-to-date answer. And it's really interesting, and also something that we have to take into account, that a lot has been impacted. A lot of things have been impacted by COVID-19. We know and understand well that the world has absolutely changed for all of us. And so that means, for example, in jobs in general, the job market, for example, a global unemployment rate of almost 37%, 190 million globally, 190 million jobs have been lost. And this is, an incredible number here, a remarkable number of things that have been affected by a global pandemic. That also means clearly that if there's less jobs and more people looking for jobs, there's a higher demand. So if a job opens up, more people are applying. And so that's also contending with students like yourselves who want to get into the job market when you graduate, something to consider. Internships, we've learned that many companies, and I am part of a consortium with tech companies as well, where we talk about the impact that that has done for other companies. And we are learning that a lot of companies have had to reduce the number of interns they're receiving year over year due to the global pandemic, but also pause the program completely or even cancel the program at times. At Microsoft, we are proud to announce that we have not reduced or paused any programs at Microsoft for internship. The only program we had paused, and we're making that announcement very soon, is the high school program. And that is a very local Seattle-based program that doesn't affect students around the world. So we want to make sure that we try our best, and we are doing our best, to offer as much as we can an experience parallel to the ones that we've offered before, even with the limitations that I explained regarding international internships, for example. But we still have the opportunity, and we're excited to be able to bring an opportunity for students to serve internships all around the world this summer and around this year. Regarding careers, I've seen many people pivot their career path during COVID-19. Industries as well have pivoted. So you've seen, and you may have experienced, some companies that existed and provided a product or a service, and now they provide a complete different product or service. They're pivoting their services due to COVID-19. What is this all telling us, and how does it impact you specifically? Opportunity to think of something historic like COVID-19 and really move away from the mentality of a traditional path of things that we thought would happen consistently. I graduated, then I take a job, get an internship, then I get a job, then I build my career, and all is well. The reality is we don't know still what will happen in the future. So it's really important for you to innovate. Opportunity is an innovation tool. We get to, live historic moments today in the world. What will you do with that? How do you turn from a consumer to a producer? I've seen many students actually innovatively think about creating startups, creating their own companies now that they have opportunities to be at home more. So this is back to how Microsoft was born, how companies like Amazon and and Facebook were born. They were born at home. And so opportunities for you also to think, as we move as companies and as the world moves toward a new reality, you also build, and you are part of building your own reality. Another question that came up was, what makes an intern candidate stand out? This is actually true in all of our environments, not only in COVID-19 environment, but in all of our environment. I always talk about how you should tell the story of how you fit into the DNA of Microsoft. And this is our DNA. The history of Microsoft has been a long-standing one. We've been around for 40 plus years, and we've definitely transformed ourselves for a long time. And I think our biggest transformation has been when Satya Nadella, our current CEO, came on board, and he allowed us to get more, build a different culture than we had before. I was there before Satya came, and I can tell you, I have seen that transformation from many angles, especially culturally. What does that mean? We used to be know-it-alls, and now we are learn-it-alls. We used to be less empathetic. Now we lead, and we're working to lead with empathy. We used to be closed source in a sense of not being open to people and talking about the things that were happening at Microsoft. And now we are open source, not only in our digital space, but really as a company. And what you see here are 5 key pillars of our culture: growth mindset, being customer obsessed, being diverse and inclusive, having a one Microsoft approach, and making a difference in our community, in our local community, in our extended community, and in the world. So how does this apply to you to make you stand out as a candidate? Talk about how you align to these values or not. The very first thing to do is to think, do I align with these values? Do I see myself? Have I demonstrated that I have a growth mindset? Have I demonstrated to be customer obsessed? Have I demonstrated to be and have a diverse and inclusive thought process? Am I always consistently working in teams? Am I a teams driven person? Do I make a difference in my local community? If you're able to talk about these angles from your own perspective, in your own student career, in your own trajectory as a person, in your own local community, if you're able to say and talk about how customer obsessed you've been, if, for example, to your own peers, that demonstrates these core values. And what you're saying is, my DNA aligns with the DNA of Microsoft. I belong here, and that makes you stand out. We have typical regular qualifications, and those are listed in our website. The qualifications vary because we have different offerings, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the reality is, what will make someone stand out, we have 2 resumes and they're all very good and they both qualify. But the one person that will be able to tell the story of how they have all these key pillars of who we are at Microsoft will stand out more than the person that does not do that. So think about that. Think about the knowledge that you have of Microsoft. Be able to learn about the leadership at Microsoft and where it's going, the current news at Microsoft, but also be able to talk about the core values that we have. Shifting gears a little bit to the opportunities that we have at Microsoft for internship. Now, this is a very general slide. We do offer more, but I want to just give a high level, being conscious of time. So again, these may vary by location. We may not be able to offer all of these all over the world, but for the most part, we are offering these type of internships. The engineering or the tech internship opportunities are these. And specifically to the Americas, Garage and Explore are only served here in the Americas. However, the SUI, the PM, some mechanical hardware engineering are available mostly in most parts of the world. Again, check the website, check by your location, and you'll be able to see what is open and what you can apply to in these spaces. We also have what we call BizFund BizFund roles. But before we get into the BizFund roles, I want to get a little deeper into those engineering roles that I just mentioned, so you can have an opportunity to see what you would probably be doing in those spaces or what you're signing up for. A lot of questions I get is, what are my qualifications? What do I need to do? Well, you first have to go on the online and see if you have the basic qualifications for each of these spaces. Which one is the best for you to apply for because you meet those qualifications? I should also say the qualifications do differ around the world, so you do have to really read through that website and that job description to see what will match best your own qualifications or what you need to do to apply for the role. The BizFund opportunities stands for business functions. So aside from engineering, we do also offer business function internship opportunities. And these sit in our business function areas outside of engineering, such as marketing, finance, sales, and human resources, for example. And so we will have some opportunities available. They are less in number, so the demand is a little bit higher than engineering, because engineering takes the bulk and the heart of the internship that we offer. But we do have some, and some of them actually are rotating. Most of these internships, by the way, both engineer and business functions, will come available with an opportunity for you to come back as an employee. That depends on the location. That depends on the the offering itself. But the reality is, most of them will have that opportunity. In the business function roles, you could see again a little click down on what these spaces look like. If you were to think about, I want to get into marketing or finance, what you can expect being in one of those roles. So again, opportunities for you not to just be in the engineering function, but parts of Microsoft outside of that as well. And so I'm just going to explain quickly the application process. This is I'm almost done. I know a lot of questions come from that. Where do I start, Miri? How do I do I send you my resume? Please don't send me your resume. I would love to review the thousands of resumes that I receive. I just simply, first of all, I'm not a recruiter myself. We have hired many incredible people that do this job in our recruiting team. receives these applications solely online. And the reason for that is that we want to make sure that there's an equitable process to the application process. So wherever you find yourself, it will not do any difference if you send me your resume or send it to the recruiter if you don't apply online. So we begin by applying online. That will be in Microsoft.com/university. And here's a little timeline of what typically happens in Americas, in most parts of the world around the recruiting season. So typically, our recruiting season begins in August of coming right off summer, and then from August to November, our recruiters are reviewing the many resumes that we received worldwide. Actually, in around January February timeframe is when we begin to actually hire what would be our summer interns, or basically our summer interns. And one thing that to really note around interview process is that you'll have 2 rounds of interviews. So if you apply and you qualify, you'll probably get called for a screen interview, which is the first round. In this first round, you'll have an interviewer. You'll be interviewed by someone from the function group, so high level function, not someone with the actual team you might be working in. Typically would be done virtual or in person. Right now, of course, we are doing this virtually, and we ask questions that are general assessments of your knowledge of Microsoft in the actual function. So if you're going for marketing, how much do you know about marketing? How much do you know about our marketing function? How much do you know about our leaders in marketing? All this information is out there, so research. And we deliver those results in about a week. So you'll know if you're moving to round 2, and you will get support from one of our recruiters. And then if you move on to second round, and then it's more of a robust interview process. You'll be interviewed by 3 to 5 interviewers. These interviewers may be someone from the team that you could be placed in. So they're more thinking about how you fit, not at Microsoft, but in the team. And it will be virtual this time around. And there's more, specific questions around the actual team and the role that you'll be serving. So while you applied to be a SWE engineer, a software engineer, now this is more getting detailed into a specific project. For example, if it's a customer first facing technology, for example, and that kind of thing. And you'll hear back with typically between 2 and 3 days. And you do get, again, support from one of our recruiters. One of the things that a lot of people ask is like, hey, how do I prep for my interview? We have a lot of information out there at Microsoft that our recruiters have put together, videos, papers on how to prep for an interview at Microsoft. But one of the things that you should always consider is the high level questions that are typically asked at these type of interviews. Why Microsoft? Why tech? Why this specific role? Why did you apply to this role? And the skills that you have to be successful. So not only are we looking for the hard skills, we're looking for the soft skills. And again, how do you fit into the culture? Your storytelling techniques will be very good here. For example, if someone says, why Microsoft? A typical answer will be, because I love big tech. Microsoft is such a great company and I love what it's doing for the world. Okay, we hear that a lot. What makes you stand out? Why Microsoft? This is a real answer from someone like me. Well, Microsoft exists to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. That's our mission. So I know that our mission. And because of that, I look at that word empowering. And I myself have had to empower myself. I came from the slums of Venezuela. This is a true story. And I came to the United States. I had to learn the language. I was an immigrant. For me, empowering, it's my life motto. It's what I live for. And so I believe not only do I qualify for the job on paper, but as a mandate, as a mission, I also exist to empower not only myself, but the world. I want to be part of some a company that empowers the world. That is an answer. You're inserting your own story. You're inserting something that I didn't know about you in the why Microsoft answer. So that is what we're looking for. And that's what's going to tell us a little bit more about you than just the resume. What to convey in the interview? We always say these things like passion, versatility, drive, and we hear these words all the time. But truly, what do they mean? They mean a lot of things. And for me, I have taken a different approach to how do you show passion, or what does that even mean? Passion for what? I call it demonstrated passion, demonstrated versatility, and demonstrated drive. You can say, I'm passionate about music. I'm passionate about working out. But the reality is, if your time and your money don't reflect that, if your calendar and your wallet don't reflect the fact that you go to the gym or that you work out and that you buy workout clothes or equipment, then you're not passionate about it. right? It's a lie. And so one of the things that we think about is how do you convey passion in an interview? You talk about it. You say how you demonstrated, hey, I'm really passionate about tech. I took 3 courses and actually got certified in Azure because I know that Microsoft announced a free certification. That's demonstrated passion. You see, it's not just I'm passionate about tech. It's like I have demonstrated my passion for tech. Versatility, another big word. What does that mean? Well, I'm versatile. I switch schools once in a while, and I took different courses. Okay, what does that really mean? Well, it means that I'm resilient. In an era like COVID-19, I've been able to do this, and this, and that. I've pivoted myself. I've built this. I've considered this. That's versatility. I'm nimble in a way. Drive. In a pandemic, when all of us just want to kind of crawl up in our beds and not come out for a while because it's very, we're tired, we're exhausted, mental health it's deteriorating all the time. Drive. How do you keep that drive alive? How have you done that? I never journaled before, but during COVID-19, I began to journal, and I began to actually see and understand how my mental health gets better when I actually sit down and journal. That's drive, right? So these are the kind of things we look for when you interview at Microsoft. How do you demonstrate these things? It's important. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this was helpful. I know there's probably some questions for you out there, but just understand for us, what we do here at Microsoft matters. And so that includes you. What matters to you. It's important that you align yourself with a company that also you think they're doing what you want to do. Like at Microsoft, if we exist to empower the world, is that something you want to be a part of? And if it is, please apply. We'd love to see your name there. And hopefully I'd love to personally see you there at Microsoft if you do qualify. Thank you so much for your time.
So, Miri, there are a few questions in the Q&A
Okay.
chat box, and I can see there's this question: how is the work environment when one enters Microsoft internships and then jobs? Is it competitively tough? How they are promoted in terms of roles like junior to senior?
Yeah, and so that's a great question in terms of work environment. I came, as I mentioned that I was here before Satya joined us as CEO, and there was definitely a different feel in the air before at Microsoft. There was this competition. It was really highly competitive. We used to actually have this process called calibration, where people from the same level, like if I was a certain level, I would compete with them for a number one spot. It was like one number one spot, then number two, number three. So we were always kind of like, wow, who's going to get number one this year? So it was really highly competitive. We were not really helping each other out. It didn't promote a teamwork environment. And Satya really did change that for us. And I think all of you who are growing up in the Satya era can see that transformation of culture. When you look at Microsoft and you say, wow, Microsoft, I want to be part of that culture. What I've been able to do at Microsoft has been something incredible. The work environment now is a place where we are, as I said, we're very open to the things that are happening. We have and created spaces to talk through the issues that the world is going through. That was something that we didn't do before. For example, I've been able to pivot my career 4 times at Microsoft. I've been in operations, I've been in customer services and support release, I have been in engineering, now I sit in HR. Never have I been in HR before, but that just tells you the opportunity we have within Microsoft to grow ourselves and expand in different areas. We've had engineers who want to come and have worked in HR. So, there's this opportunity for us to really think through our own environment that has been created for us to pivot our career, to explore different career paths. And it's not just one specific career path. And so it's a really fun environment to be. I didn't think I would be there for that long, but I've been challenged more and more to say, I can go here and let me try that out. And so it's really exciting. The culture has absolutely been transformed. And we continue to do that, right? There's definitely a journey. Specifically to interns, we've created this, program called Live Your Best Microsoft Life. We hear from our students on what they want to learn and how we make them available to connect with our senior leaders and have conversations with them. We create spaces for storytelling, open mic spaces to talk about the cultural changes and the social issues that are happening. So a very open environment to having conversations, bringing your best self. We have a co-creation program where you can basically, if you like coding but you also like music, you can come and play both and do both. So we create all the bring your best self is what we want for you to be. We want your code, but we also want you. And so it's important that you get the space to develop who you are. Co-creation has been a real incredible approach to interns co-creating their own experience at Microsoft along with us.
That's definitely a great idea to co-create, and we appreciate that.
Yes.
Also, there is this another question: how remote internship differs from on-site internship? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll start by saying yes, they are very different, but in terms of experience, you will be surprised to learn. We have a survey at the end of each class, and last year, which was completely virtual, it was up 2 percentages from the year before. So that means our interns were satisfied or very satisfied with their virtual internship experience. That was a huge challenge for us, right? Because the idea of being in person and that experience, it's I would say it made up more than 60% of the experience for interns to come to headquarters, to meet the leaders in person, to hang out on the campus. I mean, Seattle in the summer, it's just magical to go up to the mountains and then to do excursions. That was all part of that experience of come and learn what Microsoft life looks like. The campus is magical and it's so much fun. So we were very nervous to think about how are we going to replicate something like this? Can we do this, and will it be valuable? Will our interns find it valuable? And we found that not only was it valuable and they really enjoyed it, we found that they were also, our interns in a virtual environment, were more keen to connect to each other because we were going through something new. And so this idea of networking was even bigger. We used to have, and we still do, these networking obviously opportunities and talk to our leaders. And now we were actually we were able to make them virtual to parts of the world where we never could. So if you were not in HQ, for example, if you were in India serving an internship, you couldn't meet one of our leaders that was in HQ. But now you could because you were in a virtual environment. So we were able to globalize our offering in our events, which made it even more equitable for our interns around the world. And that is something that we learned from in 2020, and we're going to continue to do this year. So events that were typically saved for one location have now been made available. We're working with our partners in different parts of the world to be able to unite our interns and bring them all together. So that piece has made it even more fun because it's a true global experience.
Wow, that's cool. That's how it's helping you to connect and expand, actually, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I personally, I sit in HQ. So for me, it's been so amazing to be able to really connect and not just meet like, hi, how are you, but really connect with interns in parts of the world, in Australia, in Europe. Typically, I would have to go there in person and so we miss each other that way. This way, we're all together, and it's really been a great experience.
Exactly. There's this personal question of mine that there's this Microsoft Virtual Experience programs I've heard about from my friend. So is it that how it works actually?
Yeah. So when you apply and you get selected, you will get obviously a welcome notification from Microsoft and your start date. Upon your start date, our team, we have several teams in the background working to deliver that experience for you. That will be your group. So the admin that, where you get assigned, whichever team you'll be assigned on, will contact you. We will contact you from the program, and HR services will contact you and we will all kind of connect and say, welcome to Microsoft. Here's what you can expect in the next few weeks for your start date. We have a welcome day, which used to be an orientation day. We've turned it virtual. We're actually thinking about doing a welcome week. We haven't announced that yet, but maybe. And so it's a day where we welcome you in virtually. You'll get to meet leaders. You'll get to meet people at Microsoft, and we'll also get to do some fun games and some networking opportunities. And that day we give you an orientation, and then you get to meet your manager that day or the next day. Our teams will give you and deliver your hardware, your equipment. And so you're able to just plug in, and hopefully you'll have everything ready the day that you start. And so that's how it starts. You connect with your manager. Your manager will give you the project that you'll be working on, and you connect to the group. Your group, as well as the intern program, we work very hard to actually deliver, a calendar of events that we have throughout your internship. So 12 weeks, if it's a 12-week one, we have different ones, but and it culminates on something called Intern Day, specifically in the Americas, where we're now making it global. where it's a celebration of the end of your internship, typically done in summer. So it's a big signature event. It's really fun. Last year, we were able to do this virtually, which we didn't know how we would do it, but we did, and it was really exciting. And so it's a celebration of being able to connect at Microsoft and be able to work on a project virtually with your manager and with your group. And we also work really closely with the manager to make sure that they're staying connected with you in a virtual environment, and that you're feeling free to connect with them, ask questions as you go, very involved in that relationship, because it's different, right? I mean, it's different than if you were there in person. So we're taking a lot of learnings from last summer to make sure that our interns are feeling supported and also connected to their teams, even in a virtual environment. Typically, they would connect via Teams, so it will be a virtual, video call and that type of thing. But we will deliver equipment, and they should be able to and ready to go by the time they start.
That was amazing, actually. So, Miri, there's this question about virtual internships, that if a student applies and then completes his internship and is qualified for job, what opportunities will he hold? Whether to go for on-site job or
Yeah.
for the virtual job?
Yes. So there are no true virtual jobs. We are just in a virtual environment right now. So what will happen is, as I explained earlier, there are some parts of the world that have already began to open. So places in China, campuses in China, for example, are open. And so if you come to an internship and serve an internship in China, for example, and you are allowed to go in person, you will probably, once you get the offer for your job, you would probably come in person. Also keep in mind that after an internship, the offer to come back as a full-time employee, it's not immediate. Like, you don't come back immediately after. You have to go and graduate and come back after you graduate. So we expect and we hope that by the time our students serve this internship this year, by next year, our campuses will be open and you'll be able to come back in person. So it's not, I don't estimate that while you serve your internship virtually because of COVID-19, that will be a permanent situation when you come in person. That will also depend as well, right? The entire world has changed. So I'm not speaking officially for Microsoft here. It's my own opinion of saying we'll have to determine, I believe we'll have to determine how that will look for in every space, in every environment. And it might look different in parts of the world. So that will depend on the group you work for and the location you work for as well.
That's it. So it was really great having you. It was
Thank you for
really
having me.
thank you, and we will connect soon again.
I love it. Sounds good. Thank you, everyone. I hope that I was able to answer your questions and connect with me if you need any more. But I hope you do apply to Microsoft. We'd love to see your name there.
Goodbye.
Bye.
So it was Miri Rodriguez with us, and she shared extremely important points for you all so that you can apply for internships and jobs at Microsoft in near future. Now, I would like to introduce you to something important, that is our giveaways. Well, JetBrains, one of our sponsors, is giving away annual subscription licenses to some of its products. So we are having some lucky winners from this session, and we will announce their names in a moment. So are you using this? Here's the list of people who are in the live session, and this this site will be picking a random name from the names listed here, and you will have a lucky winner for the day. Let's start. So here is the name of our lucky winner who wins a free annual subscription from JetBrains, and it is Varsha Tiwari. Hope you're there in the session and you are watching. Please comment your name, your email address, Varsha Tiwari. So we are mailing you, Varsha. Will be shortly mailing you about. We'll share you the license. All right. So next lucky winner is Rohit Yadav. Cool. So Rohit will also send you an email. So we have another winner as well, and it is Payal Namdev Bagul. Are you here, Payal? Please comment hi. This is another lucky winner, Saksham Benkare. Are you there, Saksham? So we will mail you, Saksham, Payal, and Varsha. We will mail you in a moment about your licenses. And this was all for Divspace 21 event.